I always ask my guests if they have any regrets. I personally don't have any regrets. Even when it comes to my tattoos, I have the silliest tattoos. Even my ET on my leg, it's still a childhood memory for me, and I love it. I've had tattoos on top of tattoos strictly because I wanted more tattoos. I started getting tattoos when I was 18. I'm 52 now, and I can't stop. I've had laser treatment before on something on my arm. It's 4 tattoos on top of each other. And that experience at that place was pretty fast. It was pretty cold. It was in and out, swiped the credit card. Don't really tell me much. Didn't give me much details of anything was going to happen. So I never went back. So as of most recently, I'm so lucky enough to have had 2 sessions at Removery Tattoo Removal. My tattoo on my arm that looks like a big black blob is now super light. I've had 2 sessions. I have a long road ahead of me. None of this stuff happens overnight. You cannot take a tattoo up in one sitting. You have to be patient. And it's painful. They ice you up. It's super fast. To me, it felt like a bunch of rubber bands. But what's more painful than that is looking at something on your body that you think you're stuck with for the rest of your life. That sucks. But now for me, I'm really happy I started this journey. I'm slowly going to get this tattoo removed. I never thought in a million years I have any kind of real estate on my arm. I don't even know what I want, but it's exciting. I'm so honored to announce that One Life One Chance podcast is now with Removery. I have a code. Use TobyH20 and get $100 off your first session. Call 866-934-4570 or go to Removery.com. One of the most experienced tattoo removal companies in the world. Over 600,000 removal treatments done. 100 locations. U.S., Canada, and Australia. State-of-the-art peak-away laser technology. Cryotechnology to reduce any discomfort. This is so exciting for me because all I do in these podcasts is talk about tattoos. From day one, if you've been listening to this podcast, we talk about tattoos, talk about getting removed, talk about getting covered up. So this is such a perfect fit for me. Once again, go to Removery.com or call 866-934-4570. Use my code TobyH20 and get $100 off. These guys are located everywhere. Try it out. First, before I even make an announcement, this is my first time doing a podcast at night at my house. This is exciting. Welcome to the One Life One Chance podcast. I'm your host, Toby Morse. And today I have my friend Tegan Quin here from Tegan and Sara sitting right across from me. Thanks for being here.
Oh my God, I'm so excited. I haven't been in this kitchen in a while.
I know. I was trying to figure out what year that was that you were living downstairs for a moment. Oh, we thought about it just now.
I think when I was living downstairs was 2009.
Okay. And how long are you living here for?
When I was here?
Yeah. Wasn't that long, was it?
It was about a 6-month period where I was here off and on. Basically, I had made friends with Chad.
That's right.
And he knew I was dating someone who was living in Huntington Beach. And I was like putting myself up at hotels. And him and I had only met like 3 times. But he was like, you seem very legit and trustworthy. And my friends live upstairs.
So cool.
And if you want, you just go ahead and stay there, and gave me a key. And I was like, are you sure?
Yeah, I remember that. It was crazy. Yeah, you were a good tenant. Awesome.
Yeah, and I had someone come clean like as sort of payment. And he also didn't have any pots or pans. So I bought like a pots and pan set. Something like that. I vaguely remember happening. I was like, this is my payment for staying here. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, and then I moved to West Hollywood and then Echo Park and downtown, and then 12 years later I left and moved back to Vancouver.
Wow.
Which is where I'm now.
Which you are now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know where to start. Well, because I started watching the show High School that's out right now on Amazon. Mm-hmm. It's Amazon what? Is it Amazon Freebie? What's it called? Yeah,
you can if you want to watch the show for free, you can download the app Amazon Freebie, but you can just go on Amazon if you have Prime.
I have Prime, yeah.
And
okay.
you just watch there, yeah.
Yeah, so I started watching. I watched all of it. Me and my wife watched all of it, and
Moon. Yeah,
and I'm just wondering. I don't know how much I could talk about because only 4 episodes are out now. I was lucky enough to see all 7. But it's awesome. And it came about because of the book you guys released, correct?
Yeah, Sarah and I wrote a memoir in 2018. It came out in 2019. It's about the 90s. It starts in 95 and ends in 98. It's basically 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And it's basically our origin story as a band. Yeah. You know, it's when we started playing music. It's when we figured out we were gay. And we wrote the book, and everybody seemed to really like it. And our friend Cleo Duvall, who's an actor, writer, director now, she called me. We sent it to her for a blurb. I hate that word, but like you send your book around to people and say like, will you write a blurb? And she called me the next morning and she said, don't just option this to somebody. Don't sell your rights. This is your story. You only get one chance to tell it.
True.
And yes, I'm also saying like, I think I should be the one to do it. And Cleo and Sarah and I have been friends for a really long time. She knows our family and friends really well. And I was like, sure, why not? I mean, I didn't know how much of a reality it was. And our agent, Lindsay Howard, who's really awesome, and our book agent, Mark Gerald, we all got on a call that week and we started talking about, finding a production company, and we met and took all these meetings, and we ended up partnering with Brad Pitt's production company. They're called Plan B. And specifically this guy, Jeremy Kleiner over there, is a big music fan. And he was like, I actually like legitimately think we could get this made. And then COVID hit. And Clea and Sara and I, you know, we developed it, and Clea basically wrote like an outline, and then we went out and started pitching it when the pandemic hit. And
you pitched it during the pandemic?
Yeah, over Zoom.
Wow.
Yeah. And
because online stuff was crazy during that. Like Netflix is everything. Yeah. Everybody's home watching stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And people were like really into the pitch, and people were really nice. And we thought, you know, it's a long shot that, you know, but we ended up having this really great conversation with IMDb TV, which has now been rebranded as Amazon Freevee. And it's, you know, part of Amazon, owned by Amazon. And this woman, Lauren Anderson, who was running it, she was basically like, wrote us this really beautiful email after the pitch and just said, look, you know, I think this would be a great home for you. We understand music. You're going to need a lot of budget to put the kind of music you want to put in, set in the 90s. And, you know, one of our big things was we really wanted to make it in Calgary because that's where we grew up. And there's a really great tax break in Alberta for film and TV there. They just shot like The Last of Us, like HBO's big show there. And Fargo and like, you know, anyway. She was like, I really think this would be a great place for you. And I was like, oh, that feels really hopeful. But I didn't think wasn't sure. Yeah. And then we brought on another writer, this amazing woman, Laura Kittrell, who'd worked on Insecure, which is such a great show, did all 5 years there. And she's also a queer woman. And they started writing. And I think we had 3 scripts. And that's when we got the green light. And we thought we'd have to shoot a pilot. But they were like, honestly, like it's not that expensive of a show. And by the time you shoot a pilot, you might as well have just shot the show. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we were going to Calgary and shot the show.
It's amazing. And that book was like a New York Times bestseller?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool. I mean, we put a lot of time and energy into it, and we did a whole tour around it and did, you know, a lot of book readings, and I was kind of sad because COVID happened a few months after it came out, so it didn't really get this, like we didn't get to tour it and talk about it as much as I hoped. And so I'm really hoping people watch the show. Well, the first season ends on a cliffhanger. So I'm hoping people are like, what happens? And then they get the book. And we read the audiobook, and it's like, you can hear all our demos from when we were in high school. Wow. And anyway, it's pretty cool. Yeah,
I mean, how much of the high school show is true to your life? Like Patrick getting you used his guitar, and then they got you a new guitar, and
how much of it? Well, it's a good question. I mean, it's interesting. Like even the book, by the time you do like 3 legal reads, you know, in different countries, and you change details and you protect people's identities, even by the end of the book writing process, I was like, who the fuck are these people? Are we allowed to swear?
Yeah, because this is percentage of stuff like based on a true story, right? There's only a certain percent they say that those shows is based on a true story.
Yeah, inspired by or adapted to by. Like it's sort of one of those things. But even the book, like even in my own words, you have to change things to protect people's identities. Like my big dad joke is like memoir is memoir. You know, it's my story, my perspective, you can't fill, if I'm writing a story about meeting you, I can talk about how I felt about you, but I can't say how Toby felt about Tegan. True. You know, and so
good point.
The TV show, it starts with what the essence of our story is, and it starts with what we felt, and but then Laura and Clea, you know, they fill in the gaps, right? Like every episode is divided in 2, and so you get 2 different persons' perspectives the whole show. So you have Sara and I, of course, in one episode, each of our perspectives, but then you see my mom's perspective, and you see my dad and my stepdad, and the girls were interested in, like, you know, so every year you have to fill in details, and that starts to fictionalize the story, right? Because these people are not actually, you know, getting to tell their story. So I think it's the essence of what happened to us, but you have to make certain choices. Like, for example, Tegan and Sara start high school in a new school with no friends. That's not what happened. Okay. But the reason why Clea chose that, like why that device works in this case, is because Sara and I were so distant from one another when we started high school. I
never knew that to this.
Yeah, like we're like 15. We're just like, hormones are raging, you know, like Sarah was having a secret relationship with our best friend. And so they were like pushing me out, and like,
that's all real. Yeah.
That was all real. And so to capture that intense disconnect and that intense friction, Clea was like, you guys have to be at a new school with no friends, and you have to feel the isolation you felt, because for you, that isolation and that being, you know, pushed away from one another because of what was going on for Sara, like that has to be palpable when someone's watching. And if you guys just have like a bunch of friends, it'll be way harder to show that. So there's stuff like that that's like super cool. Like, what an amazing experience to be able to watch a TV show be made, be a part of it. You know, we were involved in everything from casting to choosing the music supervisors and like, you know, part of editing and the scripts. Like we got to watch the whole thing happen. It's like, wow, it's a lot of work. And there's certain choices you have to make. And yeah, so the story ends up starting to feel more and more fiction. And when my parents saw it, I was like, trust me, you're going to like the show, because you're not going to be like, that's me. You won't feel that way. This is not a biopic. No one's pretending and copying mannerisms. And, you know, it's the essence.
Yeah. Your mom seems so open-minded, though, about you guys growing up and just who you were and who you wanted to be and supportive and stuff.
Yeah, she was. I think so. But it was still like, you know, like she was 21 when she had us, you know. So when we started high school, she was 36 or 37. I'm 42.
Okay.
Like, I can barely take care of my dog. So to have teenagers and go back to university, like my mom was a badass. Like she
seemed like it.
She was cool, but she was also young and unstable at times. The show is a very, very lovely depiction of our lives. You know, we were young. We were all like screaming at each other and crazed. But Kobe Smulders, who plays our mom on the show, is an absolute gem.
She's amazing.
She's amazing on the show, but she's just like the nicest human being ever. Also Canadian. And she does a very beautiful job of bringing, I think, what the essence of my mom was. But I was like, don't worry, Mom, you're not going to watch it and feel like someone's goofing on you. Like she's not going to be like pretending to be you. She's like her own thing. But all the great things about my mom, they're all there.
And so did Patrick really like disrespect Kurt Cobain like that?
Yeah, him and I had a huge fight. Wow. His name's actually Bruce, our stepdad. He yeah, I mean, like we couldn't clear the rights, but like the real story, and I write about it in the book, was, you know, I was just like so fucking angry when I was a teenager. Yeah. And I would come home from school, you know, I was a total burnout, you know, and just like blast the loudest, most annoying, grating music just to annoy everyone in the house. And my stepdad really took care of us in the evenings because my mom worked nights. And one night he came up and he's like, I'm gonna take your fucking door off if you don't stop playing. I was playing Rape Me by Nirvana over and over again just to annoy him. And and somewhere in that, like, you know, my whole room was just covered in pictures of Kurt Cobain, and, you know, there's very famous images of him wearing eyeliner and, like, you know,
I remember those, you know,
kissing Michael Stipe, and he just, you know, casually threw out the F word, faggot. And you know, he was a 36-year-old construction worker who'd grown up in, like, on the wrong side of the tracks, you know, not educated. He's a amazing dad and an amazing guy. And the story I tell in the book is that we raged at each other because I was like, you can't say that word, and like just freaked out, because ultimately I was saying you can't call him that because that's what we are, like we're gay, but I didn't know that yet really, and I didn't understand it. And him and I, we yelled at each other. He'd come into our life when we were 7. He's a big guy. He's like 6'4", hockey player. Like I said, he worked when my mom met him, he worked at the steel mill. And my mom, you know, all of my parents grew up in like rough houses, you know, with like rough dads, you know. And my mom, when he started dating her, was like, this is a package deal. And if you ever raise your voice at my kids, if you ever do anything out of line, you'll never step foot in this house ever again. So Bruce was like an amazing dad, and also we took advantage of him because he was not allowed to yell at us. He was not allowed to like lay a hand on us. You know what I mean? So it's like we could manipulate the shit out of him. We stole from him. We stole money from him every day. Like we were horrible. We used to hide his like remote controls like for his television. Yeah. Because then he would pay us to try to find them for him because he thought he had lost them, and we were just so awful. But him and I, we raged for like hours, and by the end, you know, he was like, I totally understand why what I said was wrong. And we listened to MTV Unplugged, like the Nirvana Unplugged, together that night.
Oh, that's nice.
Because he loved music. We had framed photos of Bruce Springsteen in our house. And I was like, Kurt Cobain's amazing, and he's an incredible songwriter. And we listened to the record together. And the next day when we got home, he'd gone and he'd bought me, I can't remember what, some, you know, bootleg of Nirvana, and was like apologetic. And the reason why I put the story in the book was because I did want to show like there was homophobia when we were growing up in the 90s.
Sure.
And so they repurposed that story for the show, but it's Sara and my stepdad who end up having this confrontation on the construction site, you know, and like this whole thing and like whatever. But it's like, again, was super important to put it in the show because I think, you know, the whole point of telling the story is about like sometimes the people like me in the position I'm in, you see me now, but like what made me who I am. Totally. And why is that important? Well, I think it's important because I'm a woman and I'm queer and I'm a creative, and we never see that on TV. Correct. But also like, you know, I'm not perfect. I've made tons of mistakes. I was a total dirtbag, you know, and we wanted to show that, and we wanted to show the people that inspired us and raised us. And so, you know, you do have to pull out some of these stories that are uncomfortable. But, you know, our stepdad gave us his blessing. You know, he's a wonderful guy. He's amazing.
Yeah. Loaned you his guitar?
Yeah, well, we stole it. I mean, you know, he was hiding it in the basement. He'd stopped playing guitar. He was like obsessed, like I said, with Bruce Springsteen, and he had bought this guitar in his 20s and then never played it. And so they caught us, you know, like that you see it in the show. And but then, like, for him, like, he was such a music lover. He's still like this to this day. It's like he lives vicariously through us in a way, because he never became a musician, but he loves music so much.
Yeah, everybody's so proud.
Yeah, so he was just like, oh my God, this is so dope. My kids play music. This is so cool. Like, he's like biggest fan. He has like every single t-shirt we've ever.
Wow.
And he gets 2, because he has like the one he wears, and then he has the mint condition one.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's like kind of weird. I'm like, okay, dude, relax. But
I'm sure he opened his mind to so many things. You know what I mean? Music, just everything.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, Toby, you have no idea. Like a couple years ago, you know, we started, well, like 10 years ago, we identify as queer. And that was like a word we reappropriated, right? Because it had negative connotations for a long time.
Yes.
But for me, it encompasses culture, right? And gender too. Like, it's like, I've never been like a girly girl, and lesbian never felt like necessarily always the right term, because it feels very gendered to me. And so we would call ourselves queer. And so I remember we were like on vacation with my stepdad. He's a big dude. Like I said, he's like 6'4", worked in construction, hockey player, like I said. And he's like, yeah, I was talking about you guys with some of the guys at work, and one of them said they saw you guys in the paper and you were calling yourselves queer. And we were all like saying, isn't that like a word we're not supposed to say? So, you know, him and I get into this whole conversation about like, well, the word's different now, and you can say it, you know, in the right context. You can call me queer. You know, this is like a hard concept for someone in their 60s, like who was like told not to use that word, you know? And, we're having this whole conversation, and I say what I just said to him. I'm like, you know, for me, the word encompasses like culture. We're reappropriating it. It's about gender. It's about this. And it's like, you know, it's about the fact that like I like queer things and I connect to queer people, and I'm left of center. I'm a bit different. I've always kind of been in the margins, and, you know, I'm doing this whole thing. And it's funny because he's like not that guy, but he identifies so much with us and, you know, is so influenced by us. And he's like nodding along. And he's like, so I'm queer. And I was like, nope, I've done a bad job explaining this to you. You're most definitely not queer.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
The Smashing Pumpkins, man, I realized how big of an inspiration they were to you guys. Mm-hmm. You know, and also Green Day. Yeah. Which is awesome.
Huge. And Rancid and Lagwagon. And, you know, there was this band from Calgary, Field Day, and Chicks Dig It. Like all these.
Like Chicks Dig It, yeah.
Punk music was really big in Calgary, so we would go to Carpenter's Union Hall for like, you know, afternoon, you know, shows on Sundays, you know, and you'd go, the Food Not Bombs people would be there, and like that was our junior high experience or middle school experience. Yeah. And, you know, and then alternative, you know, like music kind of became so much even bigger than that. And so then, of course, we became, you know, Nirvana and...
You had 7 Year Bitch in there?
7 Year Bitch and Babes in Toyland.
In the show, too. Yeah, the soundtrack.
Yeah, Breeders and Pixies and Violent Femmes are in there.
I like that opening scene when you're on the bed dancing. I forgot which one.
Yeah, Sarah's dancing for her, like,
she's singing along to Violent Femmes. Yeah, it's awesome, man.
Yeah, there's some good music in the show.
Was it really a Rancid, like a rumor that Rancid's playing a party?
Oh, yeah, it used to happen all the time.
Wow. It's a random Canada party show.
Yeah,
Rancid.
well, you know, because Calgarians desperately, we were like big music city, and yet, you know, nobody came there. They go to Vancouver, they go to Vancouver, they'll do Toronto.
True.
And but we had this really amazing store called the Attic, and it was above this store called Divine Decadence, and that was like where you went to Divine Decadence to get Doc Martens and get pierced, and then you go upstairs to the Attic, and that's where all the bootlegs from Seattle and Portland would be sold. So if you wanted to like hear those, like how I learned about all those bands was buying cassette tapes and be like, oh, you know, Mudhoney and, you know, whatever, 7 Year Bitch played a show together or something like that. And that's how we would like discover these bands. And
that's cool.
Yeah, so it was like really important to us that we try to put like more obscure music in the show too, and not just like the big classic iconic stuff, which is also why Cleo is such a great partner on this, because, you know, she grew up in LA, she's a couple years older than us. Like, she actually went to those shows, she actually like partied with those people, she knew them. Yeah.
Do you remember like your first show you went to?
Yeah, I mean, well, as little kids, the first thing we did was we went and saw Katie Lang. She was crossing Canada on her first big tour. We were 5.
Wow.
And she was playing malls. And we like left the mall and we begged to have short hair like Katie Lang. And so we basically shaved our heads. We had hair down to our waist, and we had like basically spiky hair mullets. I tweeted a photo of it yesterday because I told someone that, and they were like, no. And I was like, oh no, it really happened.
When you were 5, wow.
Yeah, my mom was devastated. But she was like, I was so tired of fighting with you guys because my dad had left. And she was like, I was alone with you and I was tired of fighting with you guys about your hair. And so I was like, fine, cut it all off. And she was like, it was wild to see Sarah went first. And my mom and I like held Sarah's hands. Like we were like, there's photos of the whole experience.
Wow.
And you can just see like when the first haircut was done, you could see that little queer kid, you know, is finally feels like secure. Like you can see in Sarah's face, and the way I'm not looking at the camera, I'm looking at Sarah, and my hair is still long.
Yeah.
It's actually kind of like a heartbreaking photo because you can just see we're about to become who we feel comfortable. But then you're systematically, that's eroded because then you get teased for being a tomboy and you don't look like other girls, and like, you know, there's all that stuff that happens next. But for like that blip of time, we were like, yeah.
And that you were 5 when you
Yeah,
wow.
and so we saw Katie Lang. But the first concert we went to was New Kids on the Block. We were 8.
What? That's amazing.
Yeah, and then Bruce Springsteen when we were 11.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are great ones.
Yeah.
New Kids on the Block. Wow.
It blew our minds. We were like, my dad tried to get tickets and they got sold out, and he was really devastated. And then his boss, he worked for this home building company. His boss had box seats, and they said, you know, we'll take the girls and they can each bring a friend. And I'll never forget, like we were so poor and trashy, and like she picked us up in a what the heck is it called? A Lexus. And I remember getting in the car, and like there were leather seats, and there was like so many lights, like, you know, and she was wearing a fur coat.
Wow.
And I remember it actually kind of tainted the experience in a weird way because I was really scared to be with someone I didn't know. And like they didn't, it's weird that they didn't invite our parents to come with us. But
yeah, it's weird.
But I'll never forget the feeling when New Kids on the Block came out on stage, and I was like, they're real. Like it's such a weird feeling because now we see famous people all the time on social media and on Instagram Live, and like you're like in the bathroom with every celebrity you've ever enjoyed. You know what I mean?
So true.
But then when you're 8 years old, you just know of New Kids on the Block. They're in a magazine, and then all of a sudden they walk out on stage. They were so tiny, we probably couldn't even make out their faces, and we wept, which I feel as a musician, that's why I really respect my audience. I never patronize or speak down to them, even when they're really emotional and wild, because I'm like, I know. It's weird, right? Like
it is crazy, man.
I'm a real person. I'm right here in front of you. How weird.
There's something about what you just said is like the mysteriousness of like seeing a live musician that you can't see eating a piece of pizza on social media, or know that
it's ruined everything.
Like they just posted like some flower. I don't know, just whatever. It's like, just like seeing them in real life is just so, I don't know. There's something about that I miss a lot. Mm-hmm. You don't know every move or every artist that you like. Yeah,
well, we've lost the mystery. Not for everybody. Like some people really keep it close to the chest still, but
there's not many though.
No, and I'll be honest, I don't feel like I ever had an option to really like play it close to my chest. Like as soon as social media came along, it was like, or websites came along, it was like that's the only way we could promote ourselves.
Totally.
So we had to do it.
100%.
Like it would be a luxury. I remember Sarah went through a whole phase during 2009 to 2011. We had so many fights because she wanted to wipe our social media because she didn't like Facebook when it first came out, and we still don't. We don't run our Facebook page. We just create content and our managers post it because I don't want to go there. But it's like we understood why we needed to do it. I still do to this day. But we were also sad. Like we were like, oh God, do we have to like literally post all the time? And there's that curated, everything's perfect. Look how big my audience is, and it's all trickery. And
I know, man.
I actually really love Be Real. Are you on that new social media app, Be Real?
Is that real?
It's real.
Because I saw it.
You saw it on SNL, right?
Yes.
It's real.
And I thought it was so cool. And my wife said, that's not real. I'm like, that is amazing.
Oh, Toby, it's real. And I kind of love it because you just have to post, and it's up for 24 hours, and people can see how many times you took the photo before you posted. You can see if someone screenshots. Like it's like,
oh my God.
I kind of love it. Like I don't know. Some people are like, it's the next TikTok, and I'm like, no, it's not. But I think it's why I like TikTok and why I like Be Real. Like it's why sometimes I still like Twitter, because you just have to put up a thought. Like my photos don't, like, you know, content doesn't really do well there for us. It's like if I'm just like, God, Sarah's annoying, it's like 1,000 likes, and I'm like, you know.
Twitter's a weird place, man.
I know it's hateful, it's awful.
It is. It's really political and really judgmental, and
it's weird. We don't need to know what everyone thinks.
And it's crazy that one thing that Dave Chappelle said last year, he said, I heard that they were talking about me on Twitter, and he said, thankfully Twitter's not a real place. Like the fact that like, that's why I love doing the pod where face to face we're talking and having like real conversations. Like all the stuff online, I get it. It's good for promoting our brand, the podcast, your music, anything you're doing in life, you know. But other than that, it's just there's so much negativity, and it's just a cesspool of like, you could be on there for hours just like going down a rabbit hole of like, I don't know, just. Yeah. It is tough.
I hear you. It's like, well, it's so cliche, but you know, you hit a certain age too where you're like, oh, wait, what they told us is true. None of this matters.
Yes.
And so then you start thinking like, what does matter? And that's like been the last couple of years for me. I mean, that's our whole new record, is me being like, what matters? Like,
What's important?
Yeah, what's important? Like, I'll tell you what, my legacy is not going to be my albums or like how many tickets I sold and how fast. Like, it's going to be like, was I a good friend? Am I a good daughter, family member?
Yeah, person.
Like
everything,
person. Like what and then literally it doesn't matter if I am the best person on earth. My legacy will be over like not too long after I die because people move the fuck on. And so your time here is precious. And
really is precious.
And what you contribute hour to hour and day to day is really important. And so I start to think like, so maybe social media is not getting that awesome photo to post is like really not how I want to spend the next hour.
I know.
Like, which is my only problem with TikTok because I love TikTok and actually think it's like pretty dope.
I'm not on there yet. I'm kind of on there, but not
I love
really.
it.
Okay.
You can find anything on it. I know people are like, that's YouTube, Tegan, but I'm like, I know, but like, the other day I wanted to figure out how to get an oil stain out of clothes and I just looked it up on TikTok and I'm like, what? Baking soda? And then it was gone. And I was like, this is amazing. So I like it, but sometimes it really does make me laugh and it's interesting and creative. And it's really the content that I'm getting fed that seems to be doing really well is or totally like, I know it's not actually organic. I'm not an idiot, but like, but it's like, it's not curated in the same way and it's not flashy and it's not glossy. And I like that because it's kind of puts us all on an even playing field. Like celebrities don't necessarily do well there. And I like that.
Yeah.
And the only content that does well for Sara and I is when we are basically bullying each other. Like Sara came over to my house and saw that I like when I order coffees, I order a few of them because I don't like the idea of someone just getting one coffee for me. So I'll order like 5 and then I just microwave them every morning.
Why did not? That's pretty clever, actually.
Well, because I feel like it's bad for the earth to like send someone to get one coffee just because I happen to be lazy and don't want to go get the coffee.
That's a great point.
And then Sara made this like TikTok and it got like 500,000 views or something where she's like, Tegan's unwell, but there's like one egg in the fridge. It was an Airbnb and I was checking out that day, but nobody knows that. So people were like, Tegan's a psycho. Why does she have one egg in there? And like, but it's like, that's the content that does well on TikTok. And you know what? I really appreciate that. I appreciate that it's not a music video where we have hair and makeup. It's me in an airport and Sara does not walk with me at airports and I don't know why because she's an asshole. And so I just film her from behind me chasing her through an airport and that just always does really fun.
Just random fun things.
Yeah.
It's like 15 seconds.
You can do now up to like 3 minutes if you want, but short is king there. Short is king.
Because people's attention spans, they're just scrolling.
Also, you just want the video to repeat again and again because that's how you get the views. So, So if it's like a minute, they're probably only going to watch it once. And if it's 15 seconds, they might be tricked into watching it 5 times.
That's a great point.
I hate that I know that. But
and then what about, do you check your DMs?
I check like sometimes.
What about comments? Do you give a shit about comments? Do you let 1 out of 1,000, one negative, 1 out of 1,000 positive ones bother you?
Sometimes. It depends what they said.
Why do you do that? Because we're sensitive humans who we're proud of the things we do, I think, and we're passionate about everything we put out there, and it's our life, and we wear our heart on our sleeves, and I'm sensitive. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah, I think all those things are true. It doesn't matter when people are like, but you don't know them, and they don't know you, and it doesn't, I don't know. It's also because I fundamentally believe people are good.
Me too.
And so when people are jerks online, I just think like, ew, we've created this whole system that allows the worst to come out of people. Like, I think like I'm a good person. I do. I really believe that I am. But like, there's a couple people I've dated where I've not been a good person.
Gotcha.
Like I didn't necessarily, they didn't bring out the best in me and I most certainly didn't bring out the best in them. And I return and think about them often because I want to redeem myself, not even to them, just to myself, like to be like, oh, what happened and why did I do that and what do I have to work on in myself? And I think when that happens, like when I post something and then someone says something really mean, there's a part of me that's like, did I say something or do something? Is there something about our curated image that makes people feel that they need to remind us that do I need to be taken down a notch? Like, I really like end up getting kind of existential about the whole thing.
You think it's you?
Yeah, but mostly I don't care. Like yesterday, I think it was like Cobra Slut said, do we really need another show about 2 whiny white girls in high school? And I thought, no, we don't. We weren't whiny though.
Yeah. You weren't.
And like I just like was like, okay, Power Slut or whatever the person's name was. I was like, why is your name this? But then I was like, we're being trolled and like, why do I care? And like,
are these real people?
So I just move on. Sometimes I'll write back, you seem fun. And then I'm like, don't engage.
And they love that. That's what
they love it, but then all the fans pile on, and that's something we've done since the beginning of social media with our fans. Do not go on and defend me. I do not need you to defend me.
Because they go hard.
Yeah, and I'm fine. Trust me, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I have my life. this does not get under my skin, we're good.
Yeah, and they want the attention too. Once you give it to them, it's like they got it, or they say.
Yeah.
It's just, I just feel bad for people like that. I feel like the people that have all that time in their hands just to like all day say negative things to people.
Yeah. They just, I mean, ultimately, like you don't feel good about yourself if you're doing that all the time. And that's what bums me out is I'm like, oh no, you're just like walking through life and you're so bummed about yourself probably. And that's what's driving you to do this. And then I think like, oh wait, can I make it better? Can I fix it? Because sometimes I have said stuff like where I've been like, probably something more articulate than like, you seem fun, but gotten into it. And then someone's been like, you know what, I was wrong, or, oh, okay, I understand. And I think, I think that's what I mean. I fundamentally just go back to thinking like most people are good. Yeah. And so I do think sometimes like, oh, should I give them a chance? And can I help them get past this? And then I think, well, what I mostly do is I always hold myself up. What did I do? I don't expect anything of other people. I don't expect of myself. So I say to myself, would I ever comment like that? No. No. So I don't really worry about it. It's just beyond me.
The good thing about internet is that nobody's ever said anything to my face, and probably not yours. Any comment, any person came up to you, said anything mean to your face that they would on the internet.
No, but people do say like sometimes
to your face.
No, but like I'm in this phase right now too, where like we have. There's people that have listened to us for a really long time. And so like, they generate an opinion because they have like, in their minds. Okay. Like, when you just mentioned you got a new phone, but when you're doing like you're trying to train your phone to like recognize your fingerprint. Yeah. And you know how it's like keep pressing for the next 30 seconds and the thing keeps getting wider and bigger and you get, it's like taking the photo of more parts of your thumb or whatever. Yeah. I don't know any of the technical jargon for this. I'm not a gadget, but in a weird way, I think fandom that's been with you for a really long time is that process. It's like every time another year goes by, their thumbprint gets bigger of them, their understanding of you. But no one will ever, they don't know me. And it doesn't matter how much of myself I share. I'm literally probably at most sharing 10% of who I am and who I really am. You don't know my friends or my family or me. You haven't seen me weeping in bed or in a breakup or a fight or with bad breath in the morning or, you know what I mean? Like there's so much to me.
Really true.
And so like, no matter what happens, you know so little about me. And that's what's complicated about the internet is that you really can get the sense that you really know somebody and you don't. And that's why we're cruel. And that's why we're mean. And that's why we feel like we have a license to share
it's a false reality, man.
Because we think we know someone and we think we can really talk about them and then we don't. And that's why it feels probably so personal when someone says something about you is that you're like, wait, you don't know me. How could you possibly think this about me? And so I would say like no one has come up to me and said something really super cruel or mean. But people do say things that I'm like, I'm so tempted to be like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah. Like, They
feel entitled because they've been with you your whole career. They buy your records. They love you. They go to your shows. They buy your shirts. They love your music. They read your lyrics.
Yeah. They know a lot, but like still it's like a small percentage of who I really am because there's so much of my life you just don't see. And that's deliberate, Yeah. And so that part's hard because it can be a small thing. Somebody recently, a fan who I really like, was like, oh yeah, I mean, we can all tell like, when you guys are grumpy at VIP meet and greets and, it just creates this like weird feeling where you're like, well, maybe I'm not grumpy. Maybe I'm sad. Or maybe I have my period. Or maybe what you think is grumpiness is me having a boundary. Like, I got real analytical in my head about it. Yeah. And then I was like, why are you spiraling? Who cares?
But you're a human too. Like people don't see people as humans.
Yeah.
Like we have feelings. We're not perfect. We cry. We're
sometimes standing
super sensitive.
Yeah. So standing for hours on end, meeting people and taking photos and people telling you their intimate secrets and trauma. Like it's hard. Sometimes it's exhausting. I understand why people sometimes flip out and don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I just like meeting people, so I'm fine to do it, but I get it. It's a lot. It takes a lot of energy.
Yeah. Do you do more like the press usually? And Sarah?
Lately, because Sarah and her partner just had a kid.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why I'm here.
Got you. Okay.
Yeah, because Sarah's family is joining us on tour, so they're flying out. So Sarah's going to the airport and yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's a whole new adventure. I mean, you know this because you've raised a child.
Yes.
A very tall child.
Yes, very tall.
Who was just a tiny little thing, who I one time made a rocket ship out of cardboard with in his bedroom here. That's right. Yeah. And I can't believe now he's like a man.
19.
It's crazy. But it's going to be interesting to see what it's like to be in a band and the other lead singer has a child and like how's that going to affect touring and Yeah, it'll be super interesting. And like you just become a different person when you have a child. Not a better person, just a different person. You're in a new video game. Sarah's like in a different level of Mario Karts than me now because,
Totally.
you know, and I have a dog and that's a whole different thing. And, you know, like we're on our separate paths. But so I definitely think like we're trying to distribute labor in a different way than we used to in our band because we have a lot of things on the go. And I think right now I have a lot of bandwidth. So I'm like happy to do more press and happy to do more, I don't know, just more stuff. Like I'm fine with it.
I appreciate being here.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
So you guys playing music together and like discovering like your voices and playing according to the show and obviously whatever the interweb says, that really brought you guys together and kind of built this bond with you guys, right?
Yeah, I think music
at a very young age.
I mean, I'm sure that you will relate to this, but it's like, you know, we were on one path and then we found music and it put us on a different path.
Yeah.
So for us, the path that we were on was like, we had no vision for what our life was going to look like. We had no ambition. We did not know what we wanted to be or do or job. We didn't have any interest in school. And we were just like pretty much fucked up all the time. Like we just like were basically stoned for like 2 years and bad and skipping school. But we were also like clearly very bright and sweet. And a lot of people in our life were like, what is like, get it together. And we were like a bit lost and we were very disengaged from that sort of path of like figure out who you are, become an adult, go to school, whatever. We were just like not into it. And then on top of that, of course, we were like really pushing each other away and we were really disconnected and we were really angry at one another and we felt very exposed. Like Sarah's sexuality felt on display to me, even though she was hiding it from everyone. And so that felt very exposing and we just tortured one another and it was hard. We struggled. We had to share everything. And did
you talk about your sexuality with each other?
No, not at all. We were so distant. And
so on the show, you kind of experiencing different things.
Yeah.
Your friends kind of has a crush on you. There's different parts of the show. I'm not gonna give it all up, but yeah, it's beautiful to watch.
And I think like the depiction is like very honest because I think a lot of people just imagine like, oh yeah, you're best friends probably because you're twins and you just tell each other everything and you had each other to go through stuff with. And it was like the opposite. It was like, oh fuck, Sarah's going through this too, and I don't want anyone to know I'm going through it, so I definitely don't want to talk about it with her, and I don't want anyone to find out. And yeah, it was just a really tough time.
Physical fights.
Physical fight. We were brutal to each other.
So that's real in there too as well.
Oh yeah, we were brutal and like said, we were left alone with my stepdad a lot, and he would come up like multiple times. He came up when we were growing up, like as teenagers, with a drill, and he'd take our doors off the hinges and be like, "You could have these back." We have a song called like H, and Sarah sings about this, like take the hinges off the door. Like it was like we were up to no good in our rooms. First of all, didn't deserve doors, but also we would just fucking fight all night long, screaming and pounding on the doors and like fighting over the phone. Like, you know, Sarah would be like, I want to call my best friend, and we'd just like pressing the buttons. I mean, it was nightmarish. I don't know how he didn't just like kill us, you know, and he was so patient. But then we found music and everything changed because all of a sudden I wasn't a loser who didn't know what I wanted to do, who hated my body and hated my life and didn't know who I was. All of a sudden there was this thing I wanted to do all the time. Yeah. And that wasn't drugs. And it was like all of a sudden, like I could replace the temptation to just get messed up and hang out with my friends with this other like kind of really amazing therapeutic cathartic thing, which was sitting down and writing music. And it was like, you know how this is. It's like you sing, you eject so much energy when you sing and you perform, and it's like all of a sudden all this frustration and insecurity and confusion and curiosity that was like just a typhoon inside of my body could just be pushed out. Like I would just start playing music and I would just scream and yell and write these songs, and then I needed Sarah because I needed someone to like play along and sing and run the tape deck to record me, and then I would do the same for her. And then we would like dub tapes all night in the bedroom when we did homework, and all of a sudden there was peace between us.
And then playing those songs for your friends who didn't know you guys even sang or played guitar. That was
and it was like amazing because then we had all this attention, and like I think ultimately what we figured out is it's like we really thrive when we have attention. And it's no, you know, slag on my parents, but they were busy. Like I said, they were in their mid-30s. They were going back to school. They were also about to separate. You know, my dad, we only saw him one day a week. My stepdad and my mom like had all this tension between them. They had their own lives. They had their own problems. We were alone. We were lonely. And there is something very lonely about having someone that looks just like you, who's going through all the things you're going through, who's behind a locked door. And it's like all of a sudden we had music, and it was like we weren't talking to each other, but we were communicating with each other all of a sudden
through that,
and it was less lonely.
You think your mom knew about both of you?
You know,
she seems so open-minded about like friends sleeping over and stuff like that.
I think she probably had a sense, and I think she was curious, and I think at times she definitely would speak about it. I mean, we all joked, all of our friends, because she was constantly renting us movies. Like, she'd be like, have you guys seen this movie? It's called When Night is Falling, and we'd put it on in like 10 minutes, and we're like, it's a gay movie. And I can remember my best friend, who was my secret girlfriend, her being like, your mom knows we're gay. Or she's trying to make us gay. It's one or the other. And yeah, I think she was embracing it. We also had some queer friends in our group, and she knew, and she was really supportive of them. But it didn't matter, because when Sara came out, my mom was enraged. And that is something we talk about with parents a lot, and with queer people who haven't come out yet. That you think you're going to react one way, but sometimes you don't know how you're going to react.
Yeah.
And for my mom, I think my understanding of what went down for my mom from both their perspectives, my like sort of mix of what I think happened for both Sara and my mom when it happened, which happened right after high school, is I think my mom felt like Sara had hidden it from her, because my mom had numerous times said, you know, what's going on? Is something going on between you and, you know, Krista, who's the friend? She's called.
I got you these movies. Like, what's up? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm here for you. How come you're not confiding in me? And you're lying and you're keeping this? Like, I think for my mom, it almost felt like a betrayal or something. So my mom, she recovered really quickly, but oddly did not have the response we thought. But it's something I talk about all the time. It's all good. You get to come out every day. I just came out in my Uber on the way here because he was like, so you got a boyfriend? And I'm like, coming out for the 400 millionth time. No, I do not, sir. I have a wife.
Yeah.
You know? So like, you get to do it a lot, even to your family.
It must feel nice still to say that.
It's nice sometimes. Sometimes it feels like deeply personal and you're like, I don't really want to have to talk about it. But ultimately, you're going to get 1 billion shots over your lifetime. So I just constantly tell people, if you're still thinking about how to come out and imagining it in your head, the great news is you're going to do it 1 billion times, so we get tons of chances. The bad news is that you never know how people are going to react. And some people just, it takes them a minute. And we just all have to have patience for each other, because whether it's gender or it's sexuality, like, we have to just accept that the world has changed, but most of what we see and most of what is modeled for us is cis heterosexuality. And so you think you're going to be okay with it because you've watched a few gay shows and you think it's fine. But then when it's your child or it's your best friend or it's your partner who's all of a sudden like, oh, I think I might be trans, it's harder than you would think initially. And there's some awkwardness. And then you get past it and everything's fine. And then you just get to tell, you know, every new person who drives you and sits next to you on an airplane and...
Yeah.
You know, so it's all good. You're going to get real good at telling people.
So seeing Sara do that and the reaction of your mom, did that make you go even like, it pushed you back more or no?
You know, for me, I think it took me a little longer than Sara to come to terms with it because, you know, I always thought guys were cool. I had boyfriends. It wasn't like, I wasn't like tortured. But it was like the first time I kissed a girl, I was like, oh, shit, this is a very different experience. Like, you know, like it only took that for me to be like, oh. And like I've read back through my journals when we were writing the book and I was like I'm a bit dense maybe as a teenager, like compared to Sara. Like I think I was like, I also think I liked the feeling of liking girls so much that not acting on it for a long time wasn't torture for me.
Okay.
Like I could hold that feeling and it felt like it was mine and it was okay. And so the truth is that when Sara came out, it wasn't so much my mom's reaction or anyone else's reaction that prevented me from coming out right away. I think for me, I needed like to be in the relationship where it was like, hey, I have a girlfriend. And I was still sort of carrying on a somewhat secretive thing with my best friend who'd gone away to college. Okay. And so she wasn't around and she didn't seem particularly comfortable with the idea of us coming out. So I think I just kind of kept it on the down low for about 6 more months after Sara came out because that felt like the right thing to do. And then I met someone who was gay, who was older than me, who pursued me and was interested in me. And my coming out was that I flew her to Calgary where I was still living. And she was very visibly gay. And I had a party at the basement suite Sara and I lived in, invited all my friends, and everybody got drunk and like all night long just would pull me into a, you know, bedroom or a hallway and be like, is that your girlfriend? And I'd be like, yeah. And that's how I came out. I was like, just brought like the most gay looking person on earth. And everybody's like, wait, so you're gay? And like progressively as the night continued, all the girls that I'd grown up with, who we'd all had crushes on each other, as they got more drunk, they were like, it became teary. Like Then it was like, I always had a crush on you, like that kind of thing. And
that's amazing.
So I kind of just like got it all. And my mom just was like, is this woman who is visiting, this is like clearly your girlfriend? And I was like, yeah. And then like 3 months later, I'd known this woman no time at all. I told my mom I'm moving out and I'm moving to Vancouver. And my mom was quite stoic about the whole thing. And the morning that I left, my best friend, who had been my boyfriend all through high school, who's now gay, is gay also, was gay then. Clearly, that's why we dated each other, because we were like safe.
Yeah.
And he drove me, and he picked me up at like 5 a.m. And like my mom was crying on the front porch, and like got in the car, and like I bawled, you know, for like 2 hours, because it was such a weird feeling. Like I was like, I'm moving away from home. I think I'm very compartmentalized, and I think leading up to that moment, I just was like, and I'm going to move out, and I'm going to go to Vancouver, and I'm going to be a musician, and I'm going to be gay. Like I just kept saying these things over and over again, and not allowing any room for myself to feel these things.
Yeah.
That it took like literally getting in the vehicle and driving away to go move in with this girl who I knew for like 3 months, but had physically been in the same space as for like 15 days, let's call it.
Wow.
And just like, I think it was just so much emotion, because I was like, what have I done? But also I needed to do this. Like that's how I needed to come out.
Yeah.
And I needed to jumpstart my life, and I needed to leave Sara. I needed to leave my mom. I needed to just do something that was about me and just start. And it was like, you know, the next
That's a lot.
Yeah.
How long did that last?
Oh, like her and I dated, like, I think I got to Vancouver, and like by dinner, I was like, she's something's wrong. Something bad's happening here. This would be one of the people.
Serious?
This would be one of the people I would put on the list that, like, I'm sure is a wonderful person. I hope she's gone on to have a wonderful 23 years of her life, since I have not seen her, but
wow.
Did not bring out great things in each other. And I was a child. I was 19 years old. I should not have moved in with somebody. And like,
how soon did you come back?
I didn't come back. No. I was like, so we dated probably 3 months. I was on tour the whole time. Basically, I was there for like 2 weeks, and then I went on tour for a summer opening for Neil Young and the Pretenders. Signed a record deal, left.
Wow.
So I was like very focused on that. Like I didn't have a passport or a cell phone. I'm just like all of a sudden touring around. I just looked so homesick, but didn't even know what I was homesick for. I just was like so lonely. Sara and I, it was another really tough period of our life. We were so alone. And we just, like, we toured with some random guy that they'd hired for us to drive us around. And then we were, like, playing to amphitheaters of people who couldn't have given a shit about us, you know.
Wow.
We got to the first show, and Neil Young's Guitar Tech.
That's your first real tour?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a crazy first real tour, man.
We show up to the first date. We get on stage, and we're just standing there like complete idiots. Our guitars didn't even have straps on them yet. We had always played in, like, coffee shops and small bars where we would sit on stools. The guitar tech for Neil Young comes over. He's like, you could just see the look. I can still see his face. Like, he was like, what the fuck is happening? And he was like, brought us over to the side stage, and he put pegs on the guitars and put a strap on. And was like, you're going to need to stand up. It's a big place.
Wow.
Brutal summer, but great experience. Wonderful tour in so many ways. Learned from the best, you know, learned to be kind to everyone, learned the whole, like, nuts and bolts of the whole thing. But, you know, we were playing 2 gigs a night because we would open the show, and then they would drive us over in a golf cart to the beer gardens and make us play for not our audience. You know, we were 19 years old. It was brutal. And
that's an insane experience for the first one.
Yeah. So I get home from that tour. Haven't seen my girlfriend in like 6 weeks. You know, this is pre-cell phones. Pre-cell phones you can afford to use and travel with.
Yeah.
You know, I hadn't seen her face. She was a stranger. I'd moved to a new city with somebody I'd, like, you know, literally, like, hung out with 3 times for a few days at a time, you know, and moved in with, left my, like, it was absolutely bananas.
Wow.
And got into the apartment, and we had a show that night, and she'd cooked, I'd done press all day, and then she'd cooked this dinner. And we'd been at press all day, you know, and they're giving you, like, croissants and snacks and food and whatever. I was hungry, and then I had to play a sold-out show at this place called Richard on Richards in Vancouver, and I didn't eat the meal. And I remember she, you know, at one point picked up our plates and threw them into the sink, and then she, like, went and hid in the bathroom, and I was like, what? Who is this person? I was living with a stranger.
Totally.
Anyway, we broke up shortly after that, but I stayed in Vancouver. I got my own place, moved in with a friend. And that only lasted a few months, but it was, you know, and then I got, like, in a studio apartment, and I was like, I'm an adult. I was 21 or 20 years old, and was just like, okay, I'm going to make this happen. And Sara had moved by this point to Vancouver, her and her girlfriend, and they hated it. And they soon broke up, and Sara moved to Montreal, and I was alone.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was so good for us, because it was like, okay, like, we were on tour a lot. And so it was like, we'd finish the tour, and it would be like, peace out. See you in a few weeks. We don't know. You know, they might just call us tomorrow and tell us we have another tour. We just would be like, I don't know. I'll see you when I see you.
Were you working jobs, or just that was full-time music?
Just music.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, we were hustlers, you know, like, so we were, you know, you'll relate. We were out there selling merch, connecting with people, and afraid to spend it. So, you know, we were also, like, shared hotel rooms till we were 25 years old, which is insane and unhealthy, you know, because we just, like, never had any space. We never had a break, you know. And like, it's funny now, like, 'cause I know so many young artists, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to go on tour unless I can get a tour bus. And like, it was 2007 when we got our first tour bus. We started in 1998.
Yeah, it takes a while. Yeah, that makes sense.
Back then it took a while. Now people were like, I'm doing it. And I'm like, I don't know. We were like, I can remember sometimes like the conversation would come up with like, should we book a business class seat? And I'd be like, well, I'm pretty small. I'll just like save the money.
Smart though.
Yeah. Well, it helped us so we didn't have to work and do, we also toured acoustic. Of course I wanted a band. I would have, all our albums had bands on it.
Mm-hmm.
But we were with a tiny little label. Like we were with Neil Young's label. We had no tour support. And it was just like, no, you're going to just play acoustic. We opened for everyone acoustic.
Wow.
First couple of years, and we just like learned how to like make an audience listen to us. So good.
Was your mom like nervous about?
Yeah, it's so funny because she talks about it now, and she was like, it was absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
She's like, you guys were 19 years old and you're going on tour, and we just like, you would call us from payphones collect.
Totally. Back then.
Every couple days it'd be like, are you alive? Yeah.
Wow.
But they also are like, oh, we were so impressed. But they have trauma too about our career, because like they had to read the mean press and the tough stuff people would say. And like, that feeling when you're watching someone you love do something and you're like, don't fall.
Yes.
They basically have had that feeling in their body for 42 years because like went from being children to adolescents to like adults who live a public life. And, they have that don't fall mentality.
Yeah.
They trust us and believe in us and are proud of us. And I'm sure it's not as intense as it was, but yeah, it's really hard.
Still, they're babies. It's like,
yeah. Now we've dragged them into it. Like it used to just be about us, and now we're like, no, we've spent 20 years talking about us, so now we're going to talk about all of you. Surprise!
So you put out your first record yourself, right? In '99, that was the first one.
Yeah.
Just like what label? Just put it out yourself?
Yeah, we just put it ourselves, and like at
That's
the
pretty
time,
amazing.
Yeah, we had an agent. This guy Julian, still friends with him to this day, and he I think he was the one that helped us get. There was like a collective, that you could send a box of 50 CDs, and then they would send like a couple to every independent store in the country or whatever, and then you'd get like a royalty statement or something. But we quickly, for a very short time, I think just a few months, we hired a manager, and they were the ones that got us in touch with Vapor Records, and at the time Neil Young's manager Elliot, who passed away a few years ago, they got us in touch with him, and he came and saw us play in Vancouver, and he was like, I'm gonna offer you a record deal, and we were like, what? Crazy. And nobody else was offering us a record deal, so we were like, I guess we're gonna sign with Vapor Records. And we negotiated for a month. They gave us like a deal memo. It was like 2 paragraphs, and the manager who had been talking, he's like, you'd sign this, and we were like, no. And then we fired the manager, and then for like 6 months we like played shows and toured and created a relationship with Elliot, who was running the label and managing Neil, and went down to South by Southwest and asked a billion questions and got a lawyer, and we really like looked into it, and and we were like really invested in making sure it wasn't a shitty deal. And when we signed it, I think it was like June, and then we went on tour July and August with Neil Young, and it was put out. We basically by that point had made a second record, which was called This Business of Art.
This Business of Art, yeah, that's 2000,
yeah. And they didn't want us to do that. They were like, no, Under Feel Like Ours, just put that record out. That's the first record. That's the one we want. And we were like, well, we're over it. It's been out for like 6 months.
Over it.
5 people bought it, and now we want to make a new record.
Were you guys like having audiences at that point?
So,
like making a name out there?
No. Oh, absolutely not. But after the Neil Young tour, we went into Canada and we did a cross Canada tour. Probably did like maybe 10 shows or something like that. And we were playing to like maybe 100 people, 200 in some places. And so that felt really legit, and we were excited. And then we mostly just, we'd get calls. We got an agent in the US, and we'd randomly be like, Joan Osborne has 4 dates on the West Coast. Just get in your car and go do it. And we don't drive. I still do not drive to this day. So we'd like hire a friend to drive us down there and do the shows. And then we get home, and then it'd be like, oh, Jonathan Richman has 4 shows on the West Coast. Go open for him. And so we go do that. And then it'd be like, okay, fly out to the East Coast. There's a bunch of random shows you're going to open for other people, and you just do the circuit for the East Coast for 2 weeks and then come home. And
wow. Grinding, man.
Yeah. So we did that for 2 years. And then we made If It Was You.
Yeah. With
John Collins and David Carswell, who were... had made the new Pornographers record, and Mass Romantic, which we were obsessed with. And by that point, we'd gotten a publicist, this guy Brendan Bork, who'd helped put us in touch with John and Dave, and a promoter that had booked us for a bunch of shows on Vancouver Island. His name was Nick Blasco. He and Sarah and I kind of became friends with each other, and he helped us book some shows in British Columbia, the province we were living in, to make some money while we waited for the album to come out. And we just got on like a house on fire. And we'd been managing ourselves for 3 years by that point.
Wow.
And he said, me and my friend are starting a management company and we want you guys to be our first client. And it's like, it was weird. We'd been like managing ourselves. No one had ever approached us.
Yeah.
Elliot was, Neil's manager, had just been sort of helping out to some degree as the label partner. And we went and had dinner with Nick and Piers, and they were like, we've never managed before, but we've been in bands and we book shows, and like we think we'd make good managers for you guys. And so we did like a co-management deal.
Nice.
We're such badasses. We were like, we'll pay you we'll pay you a reduced rate and you can manage us for a few months. We'll see. And they were our managers for 18 and a half years. We just consciously uncoupled. All of us chose we're all doing different things now. So, but
18 years, that's incredible, man.
Yeah, they're awesome. They're the bedrock of everything we've done, and that changed everything too, right? Because all of a sudden we had like a team. We weren't reacting to things. We were planning. We were thinking strategy and thinking ahead. And bumpy first few years because you're like learning, right? They're learning, we're learning. All of a sudden, the record had been upstreamed, so Vapor did a deal with proper distribution, and so that record, if it was You, we started to like get like legit reviews, like MTV, the You or whatever, like the college station started to play a couple of our videos, and we got a bunch of tours like offered proper like month-long tours like by bands that were much more in like the vein of what we were doing. And like by the end of that record cycle, I was like, I think this is like real. Like I think we came home from that record cycle, we were 24 and we wrote What Would Become So Jealous, and it was like, oh yeah, this is legit. Like we were still fighting all the time. We went to therapy the whole time we were making that record, but Sarah and I had stopped screaming I'm gonna quit and go to university at each other. We were like, oh, I think this is like what we do now. That's 6 years almost that we were grinding it out.
Damn.
Before we were like, okay, I think this is what we're gonna do.
It's crazy giving up when you kind of self-manage and then somebody else comes in the mix. Like, I'm going to take 20%. It's okay. What can you bring to the table that we're not bringing to the ttable? Mm-hmm. And I like how you did it. Like, okay, we'll give you a tryout. Let's see what you can do that we can't do. Bring something that we can't do. Yeah. And learn together and like, because it's a relationship. Like they become, in a way it's family, in a way it's friends, but also they're like your business partners ultimately. It's hard to separate that too sometimes. Yeah. And like, I don't know, for Sarah and I, it's like, look, we're the only permanent members in our band and we're the only permanent members in our career and we're family. So it's complicated to come in and manage us or do anything for us, to be honest, because you're always on the outside. Even my mom says that. Like, she's like, no matter how close we are and how connected we are, she's like, the way that the two of you are with each other, like I was always on the outside. It's kind of sad to me in a way, but it's like, yeah, there's like a intrinsic connection between Sarah and I because of our upbringing and being twins and being the same in so many ways. And so managing us and managing that and managing a band that's family and like, it's hard, it's complicated. And I think, Nick and Piers, when they came in, they were managing not just a band, but they were managing a family in a way. And that was complicated. So it took a while to get a groove. And then it's like, things escalated so quickly, was so jealous, and then into the con, we started to be a legitimate band in a lot of people's eyes and getting decent reviews, and a lot of the like early misogyny and sexism and just writing us off, like, oh, you guys almost broke up because of that record, supposedly, right? That's because it was so hard. It was like we just at that point, it's like I don't like to throw PTSD around too loosely, but I do think like being kids alone on the road with no resources, no support, no management, no phones, no way of connecting, no money. Dealing with brutal, audience members, people saying stuff to us, really awful things to us, kind of living in fear a lot of the time. We'd leave these venues at like midnight and go to like an Econo Lodge alone. And then we'd like shower, count the money, do a deposit at the bank before we left, and then get on a Greyhound bus. We didn't drive, and we would like sleep on the bus overnight, and get to the next city, and then just like have to like piss around town and like hang out and like, we would have these binders. We had this whole system. Before the tour, we would print out MapQuest directions. I'm sure you guys did the same. Yes. You'd MapQuest everything out and print it out beforehand, and we'd have these binders so we knew like, where to go, and we would call the venues, and you would call and you would talk to the bartender, and you'd be like, where's the closest motel? Like, or do you have accommodations for the band? And like every band does that, but it was just Sarah and I, and we were kids. So it was scary. Crazy, man. And so responsible, so adult, like fast. Oh yeah. Yeah. Like, I don't remember having, like, I mean, we had rules, like, it was only a few years ago we even allowed alcohol backstage or on buses, because it was just like, absolutely not. Everyone needs to be in their right mind. We have to be able to afford, where we can't afford to buy any of this gear again. So, like, everyone's got to be sober and in the right mind and take care of things. And, like, we had to have our wits about us. We couldn't get drunk at a venue and then wander to an Econo Lodge. We were, like, two little kids, basically. Yeah. And so I think by the time our career started to actually become something, 2005 to 2010 is massive growth, right? All of a sudden we're playing 2,000 people a night and it's crazy, and getting proper press and doing whatever.
it seems like we would have just been like, what's up? We made it. And it was like the opposite. It was like we could stop feeling fearful and we could start feeling our feelings. And those feelings were like, oh, it's nice that Pitchfork is saying nice-ish things about us. But remember when they called us tampon rock and said, or when, Spin called us a Wiccan folk nightmare. Enemy said we were okay, even though we hated cock. And like and people laugh and read those reviews to you and are like hilarious. And it's like you carry this like weird discomfort about your sexuality and your, people come up and are like, do you even know how to play that guitar? And these seem like very small things, but when you're a child, like when you're 20 years old and you're just coming out into the world, you start to carry these things. You start to believe them about yourself. And so when finally someone steps in and legitimizes what you're doing and says, I'm going to take you out on tour and I think you're the real deal, and you're like with Tiesto in front of 40,000 people at Bonnaroo doing a remix to Back in Your Head and everyone's dancing and like, amazing. I love you. You'd be shocked at how quickly you don't shrug off all of those initial things. You have to do like years of letting go of that and being like, oh, we're not pieces of shit. And oh, we are okay. And like, so it was a weird time. And I think there were also, tons of personal things, relationships breaking up, things changing. And we take everything out on each other. So, they were tough years. They weren't like I don't look at them and go, oh, those were really like hilarious, awesome, amazing, like high-fiving. We're like achieving everything we ever wanted. It was like not that feeling, you know, which was hard on the people around us who'd worked so hard by that point to get us those things. And then you're standing there at Glastonbury and it's like 1:00 though. You're playing like 1:00 and, on the like stage, like it's like 2 miles from the main stage, And I can never forget one of our managers coming on the bus after we played and just being like, his face, he's so happy. And he's like, wow, Glastonbury. He's so excited. He kind of he like mimed crossing it off the list. And I was like, oh, no. We'll be crossing it off the list when we come here in a helicopter and play the pyramid stage. But now I don't actually give a shit. I'm like, yeah, totally cross it off the list. Festivals are a nightmare. But at 26, I was like, hold up, man. But it was like,
were you setting goals like that? Did you guys get caught up in the whole thing? Like, you want to be bigger, you want to be...
I think that was probably the start of us saying, like I said, there was a couple of years of needing to shrug off all the trauma of the beginning of our career. And then, I think we got ambitious, which is why we made a pop record. And for a lot of people, it alienated them from us, or from what they felt the ethos of Tegan and Sara was, because we had been like the band you can listen to if you're marginalized or you're on the fringe or you feel like an outsider. And it's like, we are still those things, but like, fuck that. I want to be in the mainstream and I want people to have to look at me and I want people to have to hear my story and I want people to like listen to a song like Closer and it be undeniably catchy and you have to like me even though I'm gay or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like I was like,
get your message to everybody, man.
Yeah. I was like, I needed me when I was a kid and I didn't see me. And 2011, I started to think that way. In 2012, when we were writing what would eventually become Heartthrob, our first pop record, I was like, looking at the charts, looking at the alternative charts and seeing there were like, 3 women in like 20 years or something that had been in the top 10 on alternative. And I was like, that's outrageous to me. Wow. And then I'm looking at pop and I'm like, well, pop's no better because there's like amazing women there. Katy Perry and Kesha and, Kelly Clarkson, all these like amazing, incredible, iconic, powerful, Pink.
Adele.
Adele and Pink and Florence and the Machine, all these, but like most of them, from what I could tell in 2012, were not identifying as anything but straight. And I was like, but I need me. And sure, some of these people are like gay icons, but they're not gay. And so like, it doesn't have to be us, but why not us?
True.
And so I went to the record label, which had just, had a huge, massive management change. And there was a new president and a new chairman and a new CEO. And I was like, drop us, because they were dropping other bands. I was like, drop us. And they were like, whoa. There was this woman, Livia Shortella, who had taken over. And she was like, first time really the president of a label had ever sat down with us and was like, wait, why are you so unhappy? Why do you want to be dropped? You're recouping. The Con, Sainthood, both those albums.
Which is unheard of.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And they were like, why would you want to leave? And I was like, well, let me tell you a story. And I felt like I felt like they'd bricked a ceiling over our heads, like we were being treated like an indie rock band. And it's like, well, for indie rock, then put us on an indie label. We're recouping. We'll actually make money. I wasn't, making any money. And we just started to have these like very, very like existential conversations. Rob Cavallo, I give him credit. We never really had a relationship with him, but he would sit in on some of these meetings and he was just like, do something else then. Like, you keep using indie rock producers. Like, why don't you make a record? Why don't you go and try to make a record with a huge producer and like see what happens? And anyway, we went home and, wrote. And then I went out and took a bunch of meetings and ended up hooking up with this guy, Greg Kirsten, who was like making those big pop records, but also was like in Beck's band for 10 years and like, was doing like, is an amazing and hilarious human being. And he listened to my demo of Closer and this song called I Was a Fool and a couple of songs of Sarah's. And I never forget, he kind of like spun around in his chair. Like I'd gone to a studio, I had like a 10-minute meeting with him or something. And he's just like, oh, you want to make a pop record? You guys write pop songs. And I was like, yeah. And I feel like, we want to try something different. And he's like, yeah, this is cool. And for me, that was like me finally dreaming. And it was Rob Cavallo who'd sat with us, and it was weird and very uncomfortable. But he's like, close your eyes and tell me what you want. What does the audience look like? What size venue is it? Be brave. Say out loud what it is you want from your career. Because he's like, even if you say, oh, I want to sell 1 million records, you probably won't. But you'll probably sell more than you would have if you hadn't said, I'm going to try to aim higher.
True.
And so we did. We said all these scary things out loud. We didn't get any of them. None of them.
Wow.
Not one. But we got things I didn't even think of. So we did say, we were like, I'd like to sell 1 million records. We didn't get 1 million records, but got 1 million downloads Closer.
That's great.
Like, we didn't play arenas, but we opened for Katy Perry, and we ended up doing the Everything Is Awesome song for the Lego Movie and played the fucking Oscars. Like, it was like weird. Like, other things happened, things that are not on my bucket list, things that I don't want now. But it was like by allowing myself to be scared and just say I wanted something. And why wasn't I allowing myself to want something?
Yeah.
And why did everyone told us that it was wrong to want more? And when we went and put that record out, a lot of people were sad and upset. But the analogy I started to populate in our fan base was this. My mom worked at a daycare, and then she had us, and then she had a day home, so she care kids in the home. And then when my dad left, she went back to school because she was like, I don't want to just do this. I want to be able to provide a better life for my kids. Yeah. And she went back to school and she got a bachelor's degree. And a few years later, after she'd paid off her student loans, she went back and she got a master's degree. And then every couple of years, she goes back and she gets additional education. To me, people telling us we couldn't make a pop record or we couldn't want more was the equivalent of someone going to my mom and saying, no, be happy being a daycare worker and that's it. That's your whole life now. That's what you got to do. That was the first choice you made. And so that's your choice forever. And so to me, people coming in 20 years into my career and telling me, even though they love us and they love our music and they buy our t-shirts and they support us, someone coming to me and telling me what I can do next with my life felt very, very, very unfair. Where I was like, I'm going to explore now. And it's going to maybe put you in a position where you feel uncomfortable, and that's okay. You don't have to explore with me. But if you want to come on this journey with me as a fan of our band, I'd like you to come with me. Because we might find some fun shit. And we might also realize pop music's very hard and it's exhausting and I don't want to do it anymore. And now we have a new album called Cry Baby, and it's really punk rock and it's fun.
Oh, that's amazing. I want to go back to the Lego song, Everything Is Awesome. Does that put you in a whole different world, just that one song from that movie?
Yeah. I mean, it's temporary, right? It doesn't last forever. But for probably 2 or 3 years, there was, a lot of young kids all of a sudden coming to our shows, parents who probably had timed out of going to concerts, all of a sudden feeling the desire to bring their kids to see us. Obviously, it gave us this like weird industry credibility because there were these like performing on the Oscars where people were like, oh, they performed on the Oscars, they must be a huge band. And it's like, no, we were playing the same size venues we'd always played. But it was like, there was like more visibility, more awareness about us. And that was good. Like that was worth all the time and energy. Yeah. And
it's a great song too.
Yeah, it's a totally great song. And it was like a really fun experience. It was scary and overwhelming. Like Sarah and I don't have our ambitions don't lie in that realm of like, I want to be famous and I want to be on television. Like I hate playing on late night TV. Like it's nerve wracking. Like it's like very scary. And like, that's not we're not necessarily, that's not where we excel necessarily. So, but, it was a really cool experience, like going out and opening for Katy Perry and playing that song and having the whole audience jump up and down. Like they were cool experiences. Wow. They're like life experiences that I'm like, oh, I'm so glad that happened. That was so cool. Yeah. But like, I didn't leave it going like, I want that every night. I was like, nah. My ankles will never be the same. My arches fell. Like I'm tired.
Yeah. How did that come about, getting on that soundtrack?
My recollection is we were on tour in Europe. This was during the Heartthrob record cycle. So again, there's just like way more awareness about us. We'd had like Closer got on Glee and like, there were like these like bigger spots that had happened. So somebody had reached out to our management and said, would they be willing to audition a version of the song? Because we didn't write it. Song was written already. And they said, would they be willing to audition their version of it? And like, can we hear their voices on it kind of thing? And we were like, yeah, we're like on tour in Europe, which is like the most difficult thing you can do on earth, pretty much.
100%.
You know, like I have a friend who just had a kid, and I was like, how is it? And he said, it's basically like touring Europe. I was like, totally.
That's a good analysis.
Yeah, like you're tired, you're jet lagged. There's like a sickness almost that you feel like when you're touring Europe, because you're like, you never really get on a schedule.
You're never on.
You know, and everything's hard. It's like, it's 100 meters to the venue, and it's like, well, but it's also uphill and it's cobblestone. So good luck getting your back up there. You know, it's like,
it's so true.
It's hard. It's really hard. But great. So fun. But I have to say that. But anyway, I was like, where are we going to demo this song? And we just like did it in the basement in the venue in like Prague or something like that. Never thought we would get it. I was like, you should get Haley from Paramore to do it, you know? And because we're like, we kind of do that thing sometimes where we hedge our bets, and, you know, we're like, or maybe that's the wrong way to say it, but we like basically were like, oh, someone better will get it. And then we got this email, and it was like, they love it. They want you. You need to be in LA in like 3 days, you know, at the end.
Did you know what it was for?
Yes. They told us it was for the Lego movie. And they gave us the general premise. I think we got a log line and maybe like a few lines about what the movie was about. And I knew that Mark Mothersbaugh from Devo was producing it. And I knew that the song that Lonely Island were involved. That was sort of like the details had been given to us. And I was living in LA at the time. So I volunteered / was voted as the person who would go in and actually cut it. So I went to the studio. I think we recorded at Capitol, like at the recording studio there. And when I got to the studio, they'd booked me for 2 hours. And then when I got there, Mark was like, they want us to do 4 versions, 4 different tempos and different keys. The song is like not in my register at all. Like, you know, it's like so high. And he's like, don't worry, we'll like tune the shit out of it. And I was like, okay, great. But it was like hard. And he's like, oh, you know, film and TV people, it's like, they want me to do so many different versions. And like, we only have you booked for 2 hours. And I was like, I mean, I'll do my best. And then once they landed on the version they wanted, then Sara recorded her vocals in Montreal and flew them in. And then never saw the movie until it was out. Wow. And I was in New York. Sara lived in New York at the time. And I was staying there. I was dating someone that lived there. Just happened to be there the night, like, or the week that it came out. And Sara was like, let's go see the Lego movie. One afternoon, it was snowing. And it was like, Sara was like, let's go see the Lego movie. And I'm like, I'll never be able to get a cab. I don't know. I remember that detail. But anyway, so I walked.
You hadn't heard the final version?
I'm sure we had.
Yeah.
Don't have a memory of it, but like I'm sure we'd heard the final version, but never seen the movie. And so we just knew it was in the movie. Also, no one had told us it's in the movie 1,000 times.
It's insane.
So I walked to the theater and I meet Sara there, and she brought Sarah Bareilles with her and Sarah's partner, Stacy. And the 4 of us went into the movie theater. And we're sitting outside the theater, and when the doors opened, everyone that came out was singing the song.
Oh man!
Like they were all humming the song and singing it to each other, and I don't know if it was Sarah Bareilles or Stacey. I don't know which one of them said it, but one of them was like, "I think this is going to be a really big song." And we watched the movie. I don't really remember much about watching the movie other than we did think it was very funny that the song is like so prevalent in the movie. And then I don't also know why this detail matters, but afterwards we went to this very hard to get into restaurant in New York called ABC Kitchen, and we only got in because Sarah Bareilles had her assistant or somebody call, and none of us could get a table. And so then she had, like, my understanding is that they were like, tell them it's Sara Bareilles and Tegan and Sara from like who have that song in the Lego movie, and see if we combine forces we can get a table. And when we got there, we got a table.
Wow.
But we all agreed that the only reason why we got the table is because Sarah's wife now, but at the time girlfriend, looks like Sandra Bullock, like a young, like an early 90s Sandra Bullock. And the hostess looked at Stacy and went, oh, hold on, I'll get you guys a table. And it was like right in the middle of the restaurant, and we were sitting next to Rob Thomas from Matchbox 20.
What?
That's what I remember of that night. And the food was amazing.
Wow.
But that's what I remember of. And everywhere we went, it was everywhere. It was on every billboard, every Uber we would get into. People, I don't understand why people knew it was us, though. Like visually, that part's missing from my memory. I'm sure there was just probably tons of promo happening around then. But we'd get into cars, and it would come up, and you know, it just people. I always say we're the most famous in the 1 mile radius around a venue we're playing, and at airports. Don't know why.
Okay.
Recognized everywhere in airports, but only. Everywhere else blend in like just a normal garbage person. But like an airport, there's something about us. I think it's because we're twins. This is, go with me on this. This gets a little like probably acid popping into my head like from when I was a teenager. But it's like people, you know, when you're a twin, it makes sense when you're a kid to be together. But when you're an adult, you move on. You get married, you have children, you have your own friends. You're not hanging out with your siblings all the time. But if you are, they don't really look that much like you. So it's not like visibly obvious. And so I think we associate identical twins with children. like young people or Stanley Kubrick and the scary twins in The Shining. Like we don't, but adult twins together, identical twins, is kind of weird. And so the one place Sarah and I are always together is when we're traveling and airports. And so I just feel like it's like we're freaks, you know, like every airport we go through, it's like people will cross a terminal to be like, you guys twins? And I'm like, yeah, but like, I don't know why people are so excited by that. I'm like, yep, we're twins. My mom's egg split.
It's great. I don't think about the adults hanging out. Yeah. You guys are so connected. Even if you weren't in the band, I'm sure you guys would be still tight and on the same wavelength in a sense, right? Isn't that how it works if you're identical twins?
I think so. I mean, I do know twins that hate each other, but I don't know. We're writing a book about being twins right now, and I've been interviewing a lot of twins.
Wow.
I think there is something. I'm not at the bottom of it yet. I haven't got to the bottom of it yet, what it is, but I think it is weird to go through life with another person who looks like you, who's similar to you. In our case,
but it's normal to you. It's like people on the outside are like,
it's
like?
We're normal to me, but other twins are not normal to me. I also agree that twins are weird. I don't see them in an airport and cross over to speak with them.
No, I know. You don't say hi to every twin that goes by.
No, that's not the kind of. But like. Our equivalent of MTV in Canada, it's called Much Music.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's like over now. Like we went and visited Much Music the other day, and it's just a TikTok account. Wow. Shit you not.
I remember Much Music was big.
Huge. And they used to have these big concerts outside. Anyway, when we went to the Much Music Awards before it became a TikTok account and only a TikTok account, you have to have like a crazy arrival, right? Like, you know, arrive in a funny car, or like, you know, whatever it is. And so we've never been invited to the Much Music Awards, and we never were again after that. But that year was the year after we'd had like our big pop moment, and we got invited, and our arrival, because we're nerds, we arrived on a red double-decker bus.
Wow.
With 18 twins. I don't know how you would say it. You say
incredible.
Not sets of twins, like, so that would be like 9 sets of twins and us. So there were 10 sets of twins. So there's 20 of us, and we were all identical twins.
That is incredible.
That was our arrival. I think people were like, what the fuck is up with those people? But I was like, we're with all these identical twins. I think it's so badass. I feel like I need to put that on TikTok. I feel like that would do well. But
is there footage of that? That's incredible.
There must be.
Wow.
I also screamed I love you at Nick Jonas, and he came over and was like, hey, what's up? And I was like, not like that, Nick Jonas.
Are those all three? No, identical. Are they all? No, they're not twins.
No, I don't think so. No, they're all different ages.
And then Katy Perry takes you on tour. What album is that for Katy Perry? Teenage Dream, whatever? Is that her big record then too?
I think so. It was 2015, so maybe. Probably. Or maybe after it.
Maybe she was on the Warped Tour. That was crazy.
I know. She's so cool. She's
love her. She's cool, right?
I love her. Love her.
I love her too.
She's so funny. She did so many funny things on that tour to us. Like, we had our birthday. She's so nice. Like, we had our birthday. We did 2 shows at the Staples Center, and she gave us the big dressing room because it was our birthday.
Dang.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like,
she seems amazing.
She was so nice. Like, she gave us I actually think this is very funny, but like, she had this like very kind of like very hot poster she was selling at the merch, you know, area or whatever, and she signed it and put it in our dressing room.
Oh.
With this very funny message, like, where she was like, "I'm crushing on both of you." Something I can't remember exactly what she said, but just something like flirtatious, which I loved. And then also Diplo signed it because I think that was when they were still like whatever was happening there.
That's right.
And I know she was just doing it as a goof, but then we trumped her goof by getting it framed, and then we put it up in our dressing room for the next year, just like because we thought it was so funny.
That's amazing.
I loved her. I thought she was really nice.
Crowds were cool for you guys?
They were. I mean, like, Closer and Everything Is Awesome, like, you know, were the songs people understood.
Yeah. We
just like ran around. It was cool though. We like got like so many emails and people coming up afterwards, like young girls being like, it was so cool. Like, you were playing an instrument and I want to play the guitar. And like, you know, there's like those kinds of like connection moments, I think, for people in the audience.
And what about the hardcore Tegan and Sara fans when you guys have a big song on Legos? Do they think this is it? We lost our band. They're not ours anymore?
I'm sure some people did.
Yeah.
But I think by that
point, I'd be
so
stoked, you know, like.
But you know what? A lot of the diehards, they'd stick around because they did think it was cool. But you know what? Also, like, when all this is happening, also, I was 35.
Yeah.
And like, I started seeing less concerts. So I also think it's like normal. Like, I feel like a therapist sometimes to some of like our diehard fans who like have kind of like stopped seeing shows. Like, you know, we got a lot of fans who've seen like 100 shows, like 100 shows.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's so great. And like, I recently spoke to one of them and they were like, yeah, I haven't come to a show of your guys' like in 5 years. Like, I don't go to as many concerts, but also like, you know, you got like, and I was like, you don't even need to say it.
Yeah.
It's totally okay. Don't worry about it. I think you saw a lot of shows.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And also, like, people grow up, they grow into different things. They like different bands. Some people just don't like to go to concerts anymore. Like, we're good. It's all good.
People just get older.
Yeah.
They can listen to it at home. They don't have to go to shows
Absolutely.
anymore.
Do what you want.
Yeah. I love that. What about so after that record's Love You to Death, or is that the?
Yeah, we put out Loved You to Death, which was still pop, but it was like we called it our dark pop bedroom record. You know, we were like, we don't want to open. We just want to like do our own shows. We want to connect. You know, do VIP. Like
No pressure to make a poppy song after the success of Everything Is Awesome.
Well, I mean, I'm sure everybody wanted us to go do that, but we were like, we still did the record with Greg Kirsten, and we did some co-writing. I still think it's like a badass record. It had some like, I think like, you know, it has the song Boyfriend, did decent on radio and stuff, but no, we were like kind of over it. I was like, this is hard. You know, 3 radio visits a day.
Wow. And then play a show probably that night.
Yeah, and then VIP sound checks, and then like radio sound check. Like, you know, I was like, this is too much. I don't want this. And to be honest, like, you know, it meant a lot of growth, but growth still means a lot of investment. We all of a sudden had to have so much production. All of a sudden we had a semi.
Wow.
And I was like,
a semi-truck.
Yeah. And 2 buses.
Was merch going crazy for you guys and everything?
Yeah, but it's like it all balanced out. Like in the end, the net's kind of the same. And I was like, well, if the net's going to be the same, like, you know what I like to do is go to the museum during the afternoon and get a coffee and like, you know, hang out and be chill. And
check out the town. Yeah.
Again, this is kind of like cliche to say, but like I just think also we got a little bit older and we were like, I'm good. I want to do other things. And that was when after Love You to Death, we wrapped that up and, you know, did an anniversary tour for our album, The Con, which was so dope and so fun. And I wish we'd done way more dates. We only did 30 dates, but like we wrapped that up and we had a summit with our management team and we were like, I don't want to be on the record treadmill. Like, let's do something else. And so we were like, oh, let's do a podcast or write a book. And the book ended up happening. And then, you know, we've been on that mode where it's like I don't want to tour 280 days anymore a year.
You did that already, yeah.
I did it. I did it for 20 years. I miss my family and friends. Time is precious. Now Sarah has a kid. You know, my life's comfortable. I still want to tour and I still want to be a band and I love music as an engine. Yeah. But I started to be like, man, I got other stories I want to tell and I want to put those stories in my own words and I love writing and I love connecting and I love talking and like, are there other ways for us to tell our story and to share and like, I clearly love to talk. But it's like, I don't really want to just do like 15-minute interviews with local papers anymore. Not because they aren't awesome and great, but it's like, you just don't go deep. Yeah. You don't get into anything. No. And I just started to be like, I don't know, like, I think we're going to have to fill our time with other things. And so that's, you know, we wrote a graphic novel series for young kids. Like it's aimed at 8 to 15-year-olds. And that first one comes out this spring. And, you know, obviously worked on this show and we have this thing, a Substack called I Think We're Alone Now, where Sarah and I that's right. Write about our lives.
It's the newsletters, right?
Yeah, correct. And it's like, I don't know, like all that stuff's really fun. And it's like, is it the same? Is it like, can I value it the same monetarily as I can touring? No.
It's still writing. It's still therapeutic.
But it's therapeutic and it's fun and it's exciting and it's fun. It's like, I don't know, like at some point I'm like, I don't know, I don't want a big mansion and I don't drive, so I don't have a car and I don't care about gear. And like, what am I spending my money on anyway? Just surviving, and I have a great partner. And so I started to be like, maybe we don't need to tour all the time. Yeah. I don't know.
You're in a good place.
I think so.
Junior High comes out next year?
Yeah, it's the first of the graphic novel series that comes out. And it's, you know, it's you know, they were interested, FSG, which is published high school, they wanted something for younger kids. So it's fictionalized, it's set in the present day. You know, but it has a Tegan and Sara at the core who are like queer, but they're in middle school and they're crushing on girls and they're, you know, they start a band and I'm really excited. Like it all kind of like sets up, you know, but they deal with like things like they have to get bras and like get their period and like I love writing it. It was so cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you guys covered today the Smashing Pumpkins song?
Yeah, we did for the trailer of High School. So we
where can we find that song? I was looking for it.
It's because it's an Amazon show. It's only on Amazon Music.
Wow.
Yeah, I think probably eventually it'll go somewhere else. But we actually spoke to Billy Corgan today.
What?
Yeah, because he has a podcast.
Okay.
And
is he into wrestling and stuff like that?
I think so.
I think he owns a wrestling team or something.
Yeah.
They're on tour with Jane's Addiction. I can't wait to see that show.
Yeah, I know. I'm really sad. It was kind of like a very surreal moment because you've seen the show, so you know how much we love Smashing Pumpkins.
It's insane.
And we were wrapping up the podcast today, and he said, "Hey, you know, like, you guys need to come up on stage and do a song."
You on his podcast?
Yeah.
Wow.
And then he was like, "You guys got to come up and do a song," which is sort of like I already knew through our management that he had sort of said that, and I was kind of like, "Oh, that's cool. That's really very sweet of you and generous." And he said, "Well, where are you guys right now?" And I said, "We're in LA. We're flying to New York tonight." And well, I am. And then he said, "We're playing Madison Square Garden tomorrow night. You guys got to come up. Song 4,
tomorrow?
We're gonna do blah blah blah." And I was like, well, Sarah's not gonna be there and I'm not going up alone, so we're not gonna do it. But I was like, someday. But we covered today. He was very generous. He was really nice. we saw him multiple times, slept in a parking lot to get tickets to Smashing Pumpkins in 11th grade.
That's incredible.
In 12th grade.
Just think about that. Now you're talking to him today. It's just amazing.
I know, it's
how
amazing.
Life is.
Oh my God. Oh no. It's like,
you're going to go to the show tomorrow? You're going to feel too nervous. He might try to bring you up there.
I will be nowhere near that show
for
that exact reason. Exactly. Also, I am trying to be COVID safe because we have a tour starting in a week.
Smart.
But it was really dope. It was really cool. It's very full circle. I feel very lucky. I'm I mean this so sincerely. I just cannot believe what we were able to achieve, considering what little shitheads we were. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just watching the high school show and seeing how you growing up, just everything. Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
And so this year you guys dropped already 4 songs already, now 5 too. As of tonight, there's a new song coming out.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, we have a song coming out.
Smoking Weed Alone?
Yeah. I don't actually smoke. I don't do drugs, but I had a dream that was back in the neighborhood that Sarah and I, one of the neighborhoods we grew in, we moved a lot, but I was back in this neighborhood that the 10th grade is set in for the show, just to keep it all applicable. And I was, in the dream, I knew I was stoned. I hate pot, but in high school we just smoked so much pot.
When's the last time you smoked pot, you think?
Well, I actually had a puff of pot on my 40th birthday.
Okay.
And then got the spins. Yeah, I got the spins. And then apparently I told the same story about my favorite stuff down 900 times. And I was like, that's why I don't smoke pot. So it'll probably be another 20 years before it. I just I don't like drugs because I don't like to feel out of control.
Yeah.
So, and we did more than our fair share in high school. And I truly felt that wasn't the choice for me.
Yeah.
It's all legalized now. Yeah, it's all legalized now in Canada. No judgment,
crazy.
Whatever. But anyway, I hate pot. But in the dream, I'm running down the street. You know that feeling when you're a kid? You don't have to have smoked pot to feel it, but where you're just outside at night.
Yeah.
And free, and you're running down the street. And in the dream, I felt like this elation. I was so happy, but then I was like, oh no, I'm stoned, and I woke up, and so I just had the Smoking Weed Alone and in my head, and
that's how I came up with this song.
Yeah, but the song is about. To me, the song is about.
It's way deeper than that. It's way something.
Yeah, I kind of lost my light. Pre-chorus is about losing my light. I felt like the last couple of years it sounds so silly, but I got a dog, and it's first time I've had to really take care of something else. And it was very discombobulating for me. And she is an awesome dog and is amazing and is doing really great, but she had a lot of reactivity, and we weren't sure why, because we did training. I put way too much pressure on myself. And
okay.
And she just doesn't like it when people approach us on leash to try to pet her, which, by the way, don't pet people's dogs.
Nah.
Leave them alone.
Without asking, whatever.
They're on a leash. But anyway, I went kind of into a dark place, and my partner is amazing. Sophia's incredible. But, she was working 2 jobs and going to school because I don't know what's wrong with her. She did not need to do all that. But there was a period where she was doing that when we got the puppy. I was very mad at her. I'm like, I'm going to divorce you. Please, I need your help with this. But one day she said she brought the dog. She'd been at work and was like, hey, can you take the dog now? And she said, I just turned around. I was in my office, and she said the light was gone in my eye. And that night at dinner, she was like, it's so weird. You're the most positive, upbeat person I've ever been around. You wake up every day happy. It's weird because I don't drink coffee. And she was like, you just wake up alive and happy. And you haven't been, it's clear you don't feel that right now. And I want to figure out how to make you feel happy.
Wow.
And help you figure out how to be happy. And it was weird because I wasn't unhappy, but something had changed. And Sarah and I started to make these massive changes in our life, and coupled from our record company and from our management.
Yeah.
And we... Yeah, just a lot of big conversations about what comes next, and that's the song is sort of about, and then our record, Cry Baby, is sort of those themes, but more. Sarah writes a lot about fertility, the process of her and her wife having a baby, and
that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the pandemic, we were all just asking big questions. Funny, 100%. Today someone reviewed our record and said, "Thank God this record isn't a pandemic record," and I was like, "It is." But also, why is that bad? I had a lot of time to think.
Yeah, a couple years, actually, yeah. So you have Fucking Up What Matters came out first, right?
Yeah.
And then I love the Coldplay tribute because I'm a massive Coldplay fan.
Yeah, the song,
the
video is a tribute to Coldplay because Sarah has a song called Yellow, and we were
awesome.
The song itself has nothing to do with Coldplay or that song, but we were we cannot put out a song about called Yellow and not have some sort of subtle nod. And then Sarah was like, fuck subtlety, let's literally remake the video for Yellow, and we did, and it was amazing. Yeah.
You think they saw it?
No.
You love Coldplay at all or no?
I love Coldplay.
Yes.
Love Coldplay. I would love it
People
if they saw it.
People always tease me and make fun of me because I like Coldplay and have Coldplay tattoos.
No.
It's my favorite band.
No. They're amazing. They're so positive, and
know,
the
but
live
people
performance.
hate on them so much. It's
people
crazy.
are jerks. Whatever. Like what you like.
I know.
No need to hate.
Yes. And they had Faded Like a Feeling came out. 3rd single.
Yeah.
Are these singles just dropping the record here and there?
Oh yeah, we're just dropping songs. That's what the kids do now. They call it water falling, which makes me feel disgusted with myself for also knowing it. But yeah, we wanted to give people a taste. Faded Like a Feeling is a ballad. on the record. You know, I've always been the person who ends my relationships, and a really good friend of mine had like a severe breakup, you know, while I was writing this record.
Yeah.
Like a very abrupt ending to a relationship, and sort of was on the other side, and it was almost like role playing, like hearing her talk about what it was like to have such an abrupt ending, not understanding it, and feeling really like bad, and nothing bad had happened, at least from my perspective or my understanding. It was just like things had changed. And so Faded Like a Feeling, you know, it's like, you know, for me, I pondered as the person on the other side who has been the one that does that to somebody. I think I just like was reflective about like that I've changed a lot. And then in some of my relationships, it wasn't like a thing. It was just like I changed and you faded away for me. Bye.
Yeah. Do you write a lot of the songs? Do you write a lot of the songs mostly or no?
Good luck. Everything is, our records are always evenly balanced.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And we really collaborated a lot on this one. Like Sarah's, sometimes I'm like, you're a jerk, but she'll like actually, I'll send her a song. We really demo a lot of stuff out. Like, you know, there'll be like 60 ideas and tracks and melody lines and backing vocals. And Sarah would just like re-record I would send her a song. I said, let's send her, not Faded Like a Feeling, but like Fucking Up What Matters, for example. When I sent it to her, she just re-recorded it the way she wanted to hear it and like changed the melody and changed a bunch of words. And a lot of it was dope, but then I would like be like, just send me the track, and I would sing it back the way I wanted. And Sarah's like, it's too many words. So like, you know, and Sarah really informed the production. John Congleton, who co-produced with us, is amazing. No ego, at least didn't show it to us. And he was like, yeah, you guys clearly have a vision for this record. You know, it's the first time we've co-produced a record. This is three records in a row we did not co-produce. Our last three. And we did all the early ones. And we were like, it's time for us to step back into the production seat. And so this record is like very much, it was really Sarah, like, you know, her demos, she just had a vision for it and just handed it to John, and he used it as a template. And then Luke Reynolds played pretty much everything that John and Sarah didn't play. And then Joey Warnaker, amazing drummer, came and did everything else. And it's just, it's a badass record. Yeah.
Do you love the movie Cry Baby?
I haven't seen it in forever. God, and I know like these days it's hard to say that
Johnny
you
Depp.
Like, I know it's like
so good.
Yeah. But
so no reference to the movie or nothing? No.
Sarah had gotten a Crybaby tattoo while we were in the studio. I think as an homage to her fertility situation. Like her wife was like due about, well, they had the baby in July. So, and we were making the record around Christmas. So they had found out they were pregnant. And there's a song on the record, in the middle part of the record. My favorite from the record is called Under My Control. And in the chorus, Sarah sings, I used to be a crybaby. And, you know, the song's just like about Sarah choosing her life and choosing her partner and choosing to lean in. It's her longest relationship. And, you know, they got to that point where it's like, what are we going to do? Are we breaking up and doing something else? Or we love each other forever? Or are we getting married? Or are we moving to Canada? Or are we having a baby? And they just did all those things. And so it's kind of a head nod to that. For me, similar to heartthrob, I'm appropriating a word that I think is often seen. Like heartthrob is only ever associated to men, which is why I was like, I'm taking it for us. And crybaby is something we call kids, you know, or call people, and I think we associate emotion with weakness, and I was like, I'm appropriating that. I don't think being a crybaby is a bad thing. I think it means you're in touch with your emotions.
I cry a lot.
Yeah,
I like to cry. It's healthy. Yeah, I'm an emotional person. Yeah, Coldplay makes me cry. Feel your feelings. I watch Chris. He's so into it on stage. I feel my feelings when I'm watching him. It's a crazy experience watching them perform. Yeah. Did you ever play with them? No, I've never even seen them live. Oh my god. Just seen them on TV. They're incredible live. It's an emotion through your whole body. I can't explain it. I really can't. I love that. And that's those artists, like I think when people are hard on artists like a Taylor Swift or a Katy Perry or a Beyonce, or like these people can move a stadium of people. That like I don't think people realize how hard that is. It's hard to hold 300 people's attention. 100%. To hold the attention of 75,000 people is very difficult. Yeah. And to sustain it for decades. Yeah. Very difficult. Whether you like the music or not, it's truly otherworldly to be able to hold that kind of attention for an extended period of time. People don't understand that. Do you listen to pop music or pay attention like pop culture? Yeah. Yep. And listen to like new artists and stuff like that? That's actually why I like TikTok. I discover so much music there, which I know is like horrible to say. Because that's how my son finds things like, but it sucks because you find a song, and you know, we need to invest in the artists. Yeah. You cannot just like add a song to your playlist. You will, but you know, how we actually survive as artists is we need more than that. We need you to come to our shows. We need you to buy merchandise. We need you to care in our other ventures, as you know. But I think, I really care. I like new music. I like young artists. I like
like music. I think like actually the pandemic was good for me in that way because like I was alone a lot and listened to a lot more music than I usually do because I'm like old now, so I like listening to people talk. I love podcasts.
Yeah.
And radio and audiobooks. And then I was like, oh, wait, I should listen to music. And one of my favorite bands is Imagine Dragons.
Great band.
Like obsessed. It's weird. Wow. Like, and I know Dan and I'm on like the board of his foundation, Love Loud. And
that's amazing.
I think he's a wonderful human being, but it's like a weird thing where I like listen to Imagine Dragons a lot and I want to be Dan. That's like where my gender dysphoria comes in, where I'm like, do I love Dan and Imagine Dragons or I just want to be Dan?
That band kills it too, man.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
The passion and the intensity and like I'm envious. That's not the kind of performer I am, and so I want to be that. Same thing with Haley. Like I watched, like all the videos of them like coming back,
It's incredible.
And I'm just like, I don't understand how you can run and jump and sing at the same time. I don't know how any of you do it. It's like very confusing to me.
I like the new Paramore song. It's so dancey and fun. It's just, It's got an Oingo Boingo vibe to it. Like,
love it.
New Blink-182 dropped a new record. They're coming back, new song. It's just, I always like pop music. I always like dancey stuff and catchy things. And not everything has to be deep and have it.
No, but it's like it can be like that's the thing is like at this era right now. Like I also like am obsessed with Sharon Van Etten and love Dead. Like, do you know Dead?
No.
DEHD.
No, I'll check it out though.
I feel like you would really like them.
Okay.
Chicago band, lead singers. I just like feel like I like to mix it up. I'm like very all over the place when it comes to music. At home listen to like so much jazz and
that's cool.
My partner's Brazilian and so we listen to a lot of Brazilian music and but I also just love listening to talking.
Do you want to have kids too?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Not because those around me haven't modeled something that looks amazing.
Yeah.
I think even if there was like a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece of me that wondered if I wanted kids, getting a dog changed that. Because of all the reasons I already stated, but also like the day I left for a tour, she got stung by a wasp and her face swelled up and I was like, I can't do this. I can't be away. My poor partner. Yeah. What if something happens to my dog? The love that I feel just for my dog. I don't know. I've hit the age. Big deal. I'm so worried about I don't want to put that on the end. In the world. I have like a natural healthy fear that people are getting older and life is passing too quickly and I don't know how I would bring a child into the world and function. I also feel like the world is burning.
Agree.
And so I don't know what kind of life you're bringing your kid into.
It is scary.
And so I think Sarah's going to need a lot of help. When he was born, I made a onesie for him and it says heir to the throne of Super Close Music, which is our company. Cause it's like, we'll just leave everything to Sid and he can take care of us. He's going to be huge.
His name's Sid?
His name's Sid.
Awesome.
And he's going to be huge for sure. Like based on like what I understand of the genetic material that has been combined to make him, I'm like, he'll hold us and carry us when we're tiny and frail and elderly. So it's all good.
That's amazing. So you're no kids, just a dog.
Just the dog.
Will you ever live in America again?
Yeah, I think so. My partner's like, she's originally Brazilian, but she's American now too. And she's like, we joke she's collecting passports because she's also got an Italian passport and she's a permanent resident of Canada. So in a few years, she could become a citizen. So we're a bit nomadic. That's like who we are. We like to shake it up a bit. We spend a couple months in California every year. We need like get out of the Vancouver and the rain. And,
the cold, yeah.
But we bought a cabin and a little like half acre at the beginning of COVID. We'd been looking. It was weird. The last thing I did before the shutdown was we were like on this island looking at properties.
Really?
And it was funny. I was like, I have like a horrible cold. We just come back from LA. It was like early March 2020. And I was like, I have this horrible feeling I'm about to get sick. And then I just got knocked out for a week.
Wow.
But I didn't have a fever. So everyone was like, no, you don't have COVID. And they didn't have tests yet in Canada. So I have no idea if I'd gotten it then. But in any case, we bought the cabin, got a dog, and that's like satiating me for a minute right now. But
that's nice. Nice getaway.
But I miss LA a lot. I was here 12 years.
Yeah.
And I think I underestimated how connected to my community I was here and the city. And Sophia, when she came here, when she moved here from her international life, she also was here for 10 years. And this was her community and is, experiences homesickness as well. So, but I don't know, you get older and you want to be close to family. My mom's in Vancouver, Sarah and the kids. So we'll see. We'll see how the next couple of years shake down too. I don't know. Are we going to be able to tour? Just a lot of questions.
I mean, there's a lot of tours going on now. It's like oversaturated. There's so many people playing.
And I don't we were just joking because I'm like, I really hope people come and see us play because we're really excited. The set is so cool. We're playing music from like all the different eras. It's like such a cool band. It's a really lively show. Sarah's playing bass on stage for a bunch of songs. we're doing stuff we've never done before, and I really hope people come see the show. And I don't mean it in like because I don't know if we're going to tour again, but like I don't know. Like
you never know.
It's a wild time out there right now.
Is.
Like it's really teetering on the edge of like, can we afford to tour? And like that's no one's problem but mine to worry about. So
yes.
I don't expect anyone to feel bad. But right now, choosing to go to a show is like bands are super grateful for that, and so
100%.
So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, we're also very lucky. And admit that we don't need to rush out to tour.
Yeah, how long has it been since you did a proper tour?
3 years, but we did 30 days, and it was acoustic. We haven't toured with the band since 2017.
Wow,
we haven't done a full show, so I'm excited. Like it almost feels like a wind up or a promo tour, and we'll see how it goes. And
it kicks off October 26th in Philadelphia, correct?
Yeah, we really need people to come to that show.
And that's I think Union Transfer. I think.
Yeah.
Great venue. I love that venue.
I know. It's going to be fun. And then
I love Philadelphia.
Pier 17, the rooftop in New York, which is going to be so cool.
Yes.
It's the only outdoor show on that. Yeah, so it's going to be fun. Look, I'm just like excited. We still get to play music, and we'll see what happens. My ego's not in it. It's like, I know it's rough times out there. We got a lot of friends in the industry, and it's like, I've heard words like bloodbath. It's pretty rough out there. And, again, like, I don't think that it's the job of the fan or the community who supports a band to worry, but I'm glad artists are being honest about how brutal it is out there, because like every person on our tour is doing 2 jobs, because we can't, that's what we cannot fully staff in the way that we would more appropriately do. Like, Sarah and I are doing a lot ourselves these days, because it's like
bringing it back to the
which is
beginnings.
Fine. I like that shit. Like, I'm like happy we're very DIY. Like it's sick who we are, but it's
it's like
it's a different time.
It's spread really thin, right? As far as people working and crew members and buses, everything's just.
Oh my God, we're so lucky that someone who's not even touring with us, who used to work for a management team, was like, if you guys are even considering touring, you should book buses. We booked them a year ago.
Wow.
Or we would not be going on. If we had tried to book these buses even 6 months ago, it wouldn't have happened. Wouldn't be happening.
No, the gas prices.
It's wild.
I know. Is it like that in Canada? The gas up in Canada too?
Yeah, it got bad there too. Yeah, it's everywhere.
Is it crazy looking at America from Canada sometimes?
No, because Canada's the same in a lot of ways.
Okay.
There are different things. There are things that are absolutely stand out different. Our separation of church and state is real. Our government is, problematic in its own way, but it's there's more than 2 parties that are active and make decisions together. And so there's just like, I feel like government feels more representative. But it's, whatever, all the things that happen here happen in Canada, just on a much smaller scale. And we also don't validate them in the way that America does, because we don't have 24-hour news playing at all times.
Which is great.
Like you can watch those stations, but it's about American politics, so it's a little different. But I mean, we had I don't even want to give it airtime. We have lots of problems. Same.
Okay.
Same. We
everywhere it's got problems. I mean, the whole world's just.
We all fundamentally come from the same place, which is that we came here and destroyed our indigenous people, stole the land, and have been horrible and racist and privileged ever since. And but
Facts.
Do we have good healthcare, and does everyone get access to it? And can you get a great public education? And is there a separation of church and state? And like, yes, all those things are better, but like, our houselessness issue and fentanyl issues in Vancouver are brutal. Like,
I heard that.
Like there's a lot of the same problems.
Yeah.
A lot of the same problems.
Do you feel in a good place as far as being a woman who is queer in the industry and music and the way the world's being? It seems, at least my son and his friends and their generation are so open-minded. This generation of kids are so loving and compassionate and standing up for everyone's rights.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like from a parent perspective and seeing like my son and how his friends roll and how they act. And
must be so cool.
Yeah, because like in our day, people would get called a homo or a queer. Mm-hmm. But in my son's day, my son and his friends are stepping to somebody calling them a homophobic. Like that exact situation like brought me to tears. Like something happened at my son's school and somebody was saying something to one of his friends. But back in the day, it's like you would use those words to somebody in such a harsh manner. But now kids like just standing up for everyone. I don't know.
No, I think I think a lot has changed. I mean, I'm not a young person in school, so but I feel very much that these are the kinds of conversations I'm hearing that people are having. Obviously, there's a massive network of GSAs, like Gay Straight Alliances across North America. We have a foundation.
Foundation.
And so we like know a lot of those networks. We give scholarships to send LGBTQ kids from rural areas and low-income families to LGBTQ summer camps. Awesome. We have a network of 26 camps who do this across the country. It's amazing. I could go on and on and on
beautiful.
about progress and change and whatever, but it doesn't change the fact there's been an 800% increase in regulations and legislation to roll back rights of trans people in this country. It doesn't change the fact that every single day the headlines are about identity politics and trans people, and that feels bad for all the people who care and have compassion for those people. Like, so it's like, there's still like, it's tough in terms of the industry, like that sort of intersection of being a queer woman in the music industry. Of course it's improved. Yeah, absolutely. I think also just, even though streaming has decimated royalties in music for artists, obviously it's helped in terms of exposure, because playlists can really help. You can get a playlist and all of a sudden have 500,000 people streaming your song, and like that's pretty cool.
Or a song on TikTok that blows up. Exactly.
So there's these positives, but what it's also done is it's created so much more room. Like in the last 15 years, like there were times where we were popular and it was like it felt like only one queer act can be popular at a time, and so it felt like sometimes we had to represent everybody, and that sucks because I don't represent everybody and in the community. And so I feel like there was a bit of like, there was competition and scarcity that was scary sometimes for me, because I was like, I don't care if it, like, I just like about here making a living. I don't represent everybody. I'm so sorry that we don't represent, you would have these feelings where you're like, I'm so sorry that we got chosen today. Like we used to laugh, like when we would do queer events, like where we'd be like, we're so sorry that we're the only queer act here tonight. Yeah. That we're your option. And that has changed so much in the last 5 or 6 years since we were really, really like super dominant and active. And that's exciting to come back to, like Girl in Red and Janelle Monáe and Hayley Kiyoko and Halsey coming out as bisexual, and then Muna and Claude and Phoebe Bridgers and like,
Phoebe Bridgers too. Yeah. Yeah.
And you just like go down the list of all these people who are identifying somewhere on that spectrum, like so many more trans artists getting like their due. And like, it is different. Like it does feel more like a community.
But there's a lot of work to do still.
I think so, because I think like it's still like like I said earlier, it's still like most of what we see is cis and heterosexual. Yeah. And I think we underestimate how much that informs what we do, what we buy, how we feel, what we support, and that still affects young people and all people of ages to still feel like I am in the margins. I am different. Like. I am still in a room most of the time being like, yeah, I'm like the queer person here, like I got a call on the way here from a friend who's amazing, who was like, oh yeah, I'm like a part of putting together this thing for a New Year's thing. And like, there's no queer diversity at all. We need a queer artist. And it's like, we're still there in a lot of ways, but it is really different. And the world is getting better. And I do think thinking of the positive and parading around the positives and bringing those positives up are good. But it's undeniable that there's still like a massive pushback that happens. And this happens in every single country who passes gay marriage or passes trans protections and those kinds of things. There's an immediate increase in hate crimes. There's an immediate increase in it's horrible. Prejudice and pushback. And it is horrible. So, we got to keep ourselves up. But more than ever, we need our allies. We need people speaking out and speaking up and protecting, and people are doing it, and they're doing a great job about it. And I do think social media is helpful because you see more and more and more and more queer culture,
Yeah. It's an interesting time, especially with social media, like you said. It magnifies everything, and it also shows things, and you see people in different countries that deal with different things as far as like just being themselves, and that fear of being just an individual and being comfortable in your own skin. And yeah, man. Yeah. It's weird. Yeah. It's like you wouldn't think it's that important, but like even over on TikTok, there's a huge amount of like lesbian culture, like posts and stuff. Like, like I don't even get half the inside jokes because it's like 23-year-olds, but I'm like, these videos are getting millions of views. And I'm like, where queer people used to connect were physical bars, which are, going the way of the dinosaur. Like queer spaces are, are being eroded because we sort of just mainstreamed everything. So it was just like all bars are for all people, but that was where a lot of queer people used to connect, and they would also connect online, like message boards, like LiveJournal and the Zeta boards. That's where a lot of queer people went to. But it was like you're hidden in the shadows. You're on message boards. It's out of the mainstream. And now it's like you go to TikTok and there's this whole lesbian, like King Princess and Fletcher and all these people. And I'm just like, this is hilarious. There's like millions of views on these videos, like poking fun at themselves and the community and what queer people are like and what lesbians are like. And I'm just like, that would have been massive for us in our 20s, because I didn't feel like we had any community. It's not because there weren't other queer acts. It's like, how the hell was I going to meet them?
I'm on tour opening for Neil Young and the Killers and the Black Keys and, you know, like, you know, and when we finally did get to headline, like, you know, we almost exclusively were getting women and queer people to open for us. But like, you slowly built up a community. But it was really like 5 or 6 years ago where it was all of a sudden like Muna and Shora and, you know, Janelle Monáe came out and Haley Kiyoko and all of a sudden and Girl in Red. And we were like, oh my God, this is so cool. There's like all these queer acts. And what was even cooler was that a lot of them were like, and we used to listen to Tegan and Sara when we were in junior high when they put out their album Heartthrob. And I'm like, what the fuck? That record only came out a few years ago. And I was like, right, these are children. These are kids. And I was like, right, like this is a whole new thing. And they grew up on the internet and they grew up DMing each other and they have each other and they have community. And they support each other. And it's like so dope. I'm like,
and
this
you
is so
didn't
cool.
have that, but
we didn't have it, but we have them now. Because we're like very bossy. And we're like, hello, my name is Tegan. I'm called Tegan and Sara if you need anything. Like for some, I like would just march up to like any queer band at every festival. And I'm like, hi, DM us if you have any questions.
But the fact you guys didn't have that too, who knows where you'd be right now or the hard work you guys put in or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it would be
going
different.
against the grain and all that stuff.
Sure. Well, you know what? I'm grateful because the first community that ended up happening around us was when, you know, Chad reached out to me and when Hunter from AFI befriended me and like all of a sudden, like, and that was the So Jealous era. So like 2006, 2007 in that era where all these bands and there was like, they sort of like alerted us to the fact that there was actually a lot of love in the hardcore in emo and punk pop world for Tegan and Sara. And I was like...
You didn't know that at all?
Not really, no.
Wow.
You know, every once in a while, like some giant dude would walk by and be like, love Walking with a Ghost. And you'd be like, oh, that's funny. And the same thing happened when...
Sweet tatted up dude, yeah.
Yeah, but like we were like, okay. And then, you know, like, it was like Cancer Bats and City and Color and all these bands, like, you know, like Alexis on Fire, like, you know, like started to like befriend us and be like, no, we love you, Tegan and Sara. But it's like, it sounds so dumb now, but like, you know, how would we know that? You know, like the internet like it existed, but like there was no social media. Like, you know, it was like MySpace into Facebook. So like, you know, we're getting into now like 2010. Yeah. We've been up for 12 years. Like I say this to people all the time, like who was supposed to be our community? Ani DeFranco? How would we even have messaged her or gotten to know her?
Yeah.
I met Ani DeFranco over Zoom 2 weeks ago.
No way.
You know,
badass.
Yeah, she is badass, but I've been in the industry for 25 years.
Know.
So I think
we just talked to Billy Corgan today though too. Yeah. And that was your inspiration.
Yeah, just crossing off the list. I guess we just retire now. We finally met everybody.
Did you ever play with AFI in those bands? Like once that
we did like one show with AFI. Okay. No, we didn't, but we
or like a punk band, like a heavy band?
No. But like I guess like heavier, like harder bands. Like there was this band Communique we toured with, you know, just like 5 dudes all playing like instruments loud. They weren't like a punk band, but it was like, you know, intense for our audience, I'm sure. No, probably like, you know, Black Keys and the Killers and like that, like, you know, Paramore, like those were like probably like the most alternative sort of things we did that I can think of right now. Yeah, because Chris Carrabba opened up with the guitar on a H2O Snapcase Face-to-Face tour. And was it cool? Oh, God, I love Face-to-Face. And he played guitar and acoustic in front of this crowd, and they loved it. Yeah, I mean, he was just coming out. It was a tough crowd at times, but he killed it. It was incredible to see that, just coming out with the guitar. That was the first time I seen somebody do that. Yeah, we did that too, but we did it in front of like Rufus Wainwright's audience, which was tough. You know? They didn't want 2 lesbians, I'll tell you that. But are there any bands you would love to play with still, or are you pretty happy with everybody you tour with? No, I mean, there's I mean, like, you know, like one time we got some sort of sniffing around by Robin's agent. I'm not sure that is. Robin, Swedish pop star. Okay. You know, Robin. You know, Robin, Dancing on My Own. I probably know it if I hear it. You would definitely know, but I would love to tour with her. I mean, I love lots. I love Coldplay. Like lots of artists we've talked about. Like, you know, I think I'm ready. I think I would kill it opening. I would 100% go out and open for a big band right now. I have no ego about that. I would love to get in front of someone else's audience. I would be happy to like Harry Styles call me. Like happy to go in front of his audience. I'd open up for Blink for free. You would? Yeah, for next year. Yeah, it'd be sick. It's such a I feel like I'm open to that kind of stuff. Okay. Yeah. I don't know. Have you seen Gas Prices? Harry Styles would be awesome. Yeah, it'd be fun. Like I think I like playing in front of other people's audiences. I love playing with bigger bands. Like you know, we've been talking about like we literally have been saying like I don't really want to go out and headline our own run next year. Like I would rather do festivals and do like kind of like we did it with, you know, the Honda Civic tour with Paramore, like in Newfound Glory, like happy to go out and support and do, you know, we did it with Fun. We did 45 minutes before Fun when they had their massive moment, you know, and that was good for us. That was like, that was fine. Like, you know, you play 10 songs and people know the songs and you have a good time and you sell a decent amount of merch and you're, off stage by 8:30 and you
Chilling.
get to watch Game of Thrones on the bus and,
And you're winning over people. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But I'm like really open to that stuff. We didn't have radio. We have very rarely in our career had radio. How we built our audience was opening for other people.
Yeah. That's why I got to do it. I saw My Chemical Romance last night. They played 6 nights out here at the Forum.
Wow.
And I went last night. I hadn't seen them in, 20 years. And the screams and the sing-alongs.
Was it amazing?
And the diverse crowd of young, old, all kinds of people there. It was cool. Beautiful. It was very emotional.
That's cool.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how big they were.
Yeah.
And all the different generations of people that were there.
I think it's also to be honest, also taking a break. And then obviously, of course, the TV show, Umbrella Academy and stuff
True.
That's I would use them as a model of what Sarah and we were label mates. And I would use them as a model of something that I think I'm glad we haven't toured with a band in 5 or 6 years. We needed to take take we'd been on the treadmill for 15 years straight,
Yeah, and the high school show too. I think
TV
it's awesome
show,
too.
the graphic novels, and all this stuff. It's it sounds, it blows my mind. But I hear from every single day, I'll see comments of people being like, "I discovered your music this summer," and I'm like, "How the hell have not everyone already discovered it? We've been around badgering everyone for so long. How's it possible you don't know who we are?"
That's really cool.
And then I think to myself, thank God. They don't know who we are. We can always meet new people. We can always make new fans. We can always connect with new people who find Smoking Weed Alone and think this is a dope song.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get into this band and there's always opportunity. There's always another chance to connect with people again, and
yeah. Do you feel like an old band now? Do you feel like that you got to stay relevant, or do you just I'm just making music and putting a record out, we're going to tour on it? Do you feel pressure to be relevant still, or just play to the fans you've always had, or are you not trying to have a hit song, or?
Oh, I don't care about having a hit song, but I would love for a song. I would love it if we got playlisted on a big playlist, because I would love more people to discover our music. More than anything, I want the people who already know who we are to rediscover us and reconnect and realize because remember too, the bulk of our records, people bought.
Yeah.
And so actually physically bought. And so we're in a new phase where it's right, we need to convert listeners to streaming now and also rediscover our old music and connect with us there and come back and see the show. And so I don't think so much about I don't set the values the same as I used to.
Yeah.
And I don't aspire to be I don't care. I don't want to be an arena band. Those aren't the things that I daydream about, I would love it if the graphic novels did well and we could write more fiction and we could write for kids. I would love to follow through. Every year we develop a new podcast idea. They're always so cool, but then we're oh, I don't have time. And so, there are things that I definitely have gotten to the age where I'm oh, I'd love to actually prioritize that. I'm developing 2 other TV ideas with friends right now. And it does not matter to me. I mean, I shouldn't say that. It does matter to me if it gets made, but if it doesn't matter. It's been such a cool experience just to work on stuff with other people and be creative and use my brain in a different way. And
you're still being creative. You're still writing and still expressing
I think
yourself.
I just think about that stuff now.
Yeah. Do you have any major regrets?
Ooh. No, not really. I don't think so. I think that there are things that in hindsight I would do differently. And there's things that I think with all the tools and knowledge that I have now, it would affect some of the decision making there's nothing that I'm oh God. There are a few things that I would definitely be we should not have done that.
Yeah.
But I would never even say them out loud because I can't change it. And so there would be no reason to say it.
Mm. I mean, this is one of the questions. Are you an optimist or pessimist? But you seem super positive. You've always been that way.
I think I'm an optimist, but I'm pragmatic. And I think I'm realistic. I do think my superpower is that I can reframe things really fast. So for years and years and years, every record pretty much we put out, we would get nominated for a Juno, which is Canada's Grammys.
Yep.
And then our last record didn't get nominated. And the day that happened, our managers didn't even email us. There was no acknowledgement about the fact that we hadn't. And I don't even care about the Junos because I don't care. Not a diss on them. It's a TV show. It doesn't really matter. But Sarah was upset. She was and why wouldn't our management acknowledge this or give us some context for why we wouldn't have been nominated? And But then when they did give us the context, they're like, well, like technically you wrote these songs in high school and you just, made a new record of them now. And it was like more of like a companion piece to the book. And like they kind of reframed it. And then I did the same thing where I was like, yeah, like this is not our new album. Like it was called Hey, I'm Just Like You. And it came out with the book. It's like,
yeah.
And that reframing, it really helps me. It makes me feel better. And Sara finds it at times incredibly difficult. And like, in my own, like my relationship with Sophia, my partner, like in our couples counseling, like that is something that like, it's okay to just be like, I'm sad that we got left out.
Totally.
I'm sad we've never been nominated for a Grammy for our music.
Wow.
I'm sad that like in the height of our career popularity, we didn't get SNL. Like I can admit that like I wish that we'd gotten those things, but it's
you don't dwell upon it either. I
don't. And then I immediately in my head, as I was saying that to you, I was like, yeah, but I don't even really care. And SNL never sounds good. And like, we've only ever had one good song, one big song, I should say, at a time. And like, you can't be on SNL with only one song. You need two. Like I immediately fix it in my brain and then I don't feel bad. Yeah. And I'm a reframer and I do it really quickly. And it's annoying for the people who love me, who want to dwell and live in it. Like Sarah's like, I want to look at the bad review and I want to take it in. Ooh. And I want to do the work on it. And that's hard for me. And it's caused lots of tension between Sara and I because
I couldn't do that
because I'm not that person. So I'm an optimist, but I'm pragmatic and I have a superpower and I feel very lucky to have it, which is that I reprocess again and again and again and reframe things. And then I feel fine about it.
I love that. What about daily rituals? You mentioned earlier you don't drink coffee.
No.
Did you ever drink coffee?
I did for about 3 years, and none of the things that it was doing to my body were good.
Same.
So I will have decaf, but if I don't have time for it, I don't care. And it's more of just...
You drink tea?
I don't drink any caffeine.
Wow.
But I love an iced passion tea with no lemonade or no sweetener from Starbucks. I know.
Why no caffeine? Just because
it doesn't... I don't eat it. Wake up like this.
You have so much energy. I love it.
Live at this level at all times. I probably have some sort of like cortisol adrenal issue or something. Like, I don't know. Like I said,
you've always been like this.
Always. On tour, so annoying. I just like, it's like 4 a.m. lobby call and I'm in the lobby being like, oh my God, good morning everybody. And everyone's like, fuck you, shut up.
I'm a morning person too. My wife hates it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get up early, but like if I'm going to get up, I'm going to definitely be in a good mood about it,
So coffee made you crazy jittery probably.
Maybe jittery.
Anxiety.
It entered my life at a really strange time. And I just started having all these weird things, like my legs were going numb, my heart was pounding all the time. Just like had all these weird things, just getting a lot of rashes and hives, and most of that probably was food allergies. Like I went to India 10 years ago and got a parasite. Have never been the same. Like my gut health is like wacky, but
wow.
But I went to my GP, got all these tests done, wore a heart monitor, did all this stuff, and then she just like was like, like you're in a band and you tour and you travel and you sound like you're a really busy person. You've got all this energy. You did, whatever. We do this whole thing. She walks me through all this stuff. And then she's like, in the last year, this all happened in 2018. She said, this last year, you've just been writing a book. I'm assuming that just means sitting around probably like a lot. And I said, yeah, like 8 hours a day I write. And she was just like, I think like you need to get more exercise and stop drinking caffeine. And then like all the symptoms went away. So yeah, I don't drink that. But my ritual, I don't need an alarm clock.
Okay. What time do you wake up usually?
Whenever, but like,
Not
like,
5 in the morning, right?
No, like I wake up like what feels like hundreds of times a night, but it's probably just a handful. But I'm like usually awake around 4:30 or 5 and I lay there and I daydream. And it's my ritual and I love daydreaming.
Wow.
I don't call it insomnia. I renamed it. It's not insomnia. Sometimes I have since 6:30, whatever it is. I will not get out of the bed until I have spent a half an hour visualizing. Sometimes it's like things I want, but mostly it is just daydreams. I just fantasize.
That's incredible.
Weird, like random things. I just like have entire lives I've lived in my head, and I just love the feeling of just laying there. And I've been doing it since I was a little kid.
Wow.
I used to do it to fall asleep, and I do still do it to fall asleep. Sarah and I used to lay in bed and we would come up with a story. I'd be like, okay, I run a shop and we sell robots and each robot does this thing. And I would like imagine and visualize it. And then Sarah would be asleep and then I would fall asleep. And now I do the same thing, but now it's like way more interesting than stupid robots who just do shit around the house. But yeah, my ritual, I will not. And that's why I don't have an alarm, because I don't want to wake up in that way. So I just like, it's probably
like startling to do that.
It's startling. And like, it's probably not good that I don't I feel like sometimes maybe like the fact that maybe I'm not going into a deep enough sleep and that's why I don't need the alarm clock. I'm not sure what's going on. But either way, I visualize every morning, but it's not technically like textbook therapeutic visualizing. It's
meditation or anything, yeah.
It's not meditation. It's more like fantasy, like just creating worlds, thinking things through, and it's all pleasurable things. It's never bad. It's always like hanging out with someone that I miss, or
does that stuff happen sometimes when you visualize it a lot?
Yeah, I'm making it happen.
Yeah,
that's what I feel like.
Yeah,
I think I'm making it happen. I think about like last night before I fell asleep, or this morning, like I'm thinking about like this week and press and what the flight's going to be like tonight, and like whatever it is, or like seeing someone, like I'm going to see friends this week, and like I imagine that thing, but then it gets crazy because it's a fantasy, right? So then like something absurd happens, like I'm hanging out with this person and then Drew Barrymore walks by and she's all like, Tegan. And I'm like, what? It's like it's fantasy, so it leaves reality really quickly, but it's pleasing. It's like sometimes I imagine running.
Do you run?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
But then if I just laid there thinking about running, I don't get up and run, but like I felt like I ran. I don't know. That's my big ritual. Other than that, I'm just like, I'm very A-type. Everything's very ritualistic. I have patterns. Everything's patterns and organizing and putting things away. I live like what I imagine.
Super clean freak?
Serial killer. Like lives like, no.
Super organized?
Yeah. Everything in its place.
Wow. You have labels on things and Post-its and stuff?
No, but like if I use something, it's got to go back where it belongs when I'm done using it.
I respect that.
Yeah. Can't go to bed if we haven't like, puffed the couch pillows and like put everything away.
Do you make your bed?
Yeah.
That's super important.
Yeah.
It just sets the tone for the day, and then you come back to it, and it's like something new. I don't know. It's something really nice about making your bed.
Yeah. And I like open all the blinds, open all the windows, air the house out even when it's cold. I like walk around. I guess I do have a lot of rituals. I like wake up and go downstairs. Like my partner doesn't care about some of these things as much, but she lets me do it. But I go downstairs. She'll have been up for like an hour working, and I'm like, all the blinds go up, patio doors, windows, everything open, put on some music,
It's a vibe.
Yeah. And like even when we got the dog, and Sophia had this job where she used to have to get up really early because it was like she was working for this company that was international, and she would have to get up at 5:30. I don't want to fucking ever get up at 5:30 in the morning. But she would take the dog out first, and when she would leave with the dog, I would lay in bed until she left because I didn't want her to see me do this. But then I would run downstairs and I would set all the lights, and I would light some cedar, and I would like cozy up the space for her and like get the coffee going, and like
that's so nice.
Clean whatever hellish thing our dog had done in the crate overnight, like tear apart its bed, piss on her, whatever thing that was like driving me insane or whatever, and like reset everything frantically, and then run back upstairs and like lay in bed. But I just wanted to know that she like came into the house and it was fine, because like she probably would have just come in and like sat in the dark on her computer or something. I just couldn't handle that.
Wow.
And
that's so nice.
Yeah, I'm nice.
Are you a hopeless romantic?
I fear sometimes I'm not romantic enough, which is weird because I feel like that's my job, is like I write love songs and reflect.
True.
But I've admitted this to a friend recently who I talk about relationships a lot, and realized like my hobby is talking about love. And I don't know what I am. I'm sentimental. I'm very, very devoted.
Yeah, you seem like it.
And I'm very focused.
You're a giver, and you like.
Yeah, and I'm like, so... And I give love in whatever way you want me to give it. So if you need words of affirmation or acts of service, I'm there. I'm to kill it on those things. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Like my partner and I are both pretty pragmatic, but I mean, like I get a tattoo for her every year,
Every year?
Yeah. Like I have like
how long have you been together?
7 years.
You got 7 tats already?
I have like the sign of the restaurant we went on our first date.
Oh, come on,
like
man.
so I guess I am a romantic,
so
but in a weird way. Like we don't do gifts.
You got 7 tats though.
Yeah. Well,
wow.
I'm down 1, but like I will get a 7th one. Yeah.
I saw you had a tribal tattoo. That's amazing.
This was my first one, right off the wall, 1998.
No way.
Yeah.
And it's so cool you still have it. You didn't cover it up.
I know.
It's such a 90s tat. I've tribal too.
Everyone keeps telling me that tribal's coming back, so not to get rid of it.
They say you haven't been tattooed unless you have some piece of tribal.
So should I leave it?
No, that's so cool.
One of my tattoo artists, like every tattoo artist I ever get tattooed, I'm like, can you cover this? And they're like, just get it removed.
Yeah, you could do that.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
That is so cool.
Do you regret your tattoos?
I've been getting some lasered recently. It's really fun.
Are you making space, or is it
making space? Yes.
Yeah.
I regret my tattoos. I mean, I talked about that recently. I have a tattoo of E.T. on my leg. It was my favorite movie. And it's kind of weird having E.T. on my leg, but I love that.
Yeah, because you're like such a grown person now.
Yeah, but I still love it. It still makes me cry when I see it, though. I mean, it's a very emotional movie for me. I have some weird tattoos, silly ones.
Do you have ones that you feel potentially didn't age well? Not in like the way they look. I mean, like maybe like they're not appropriate now. Like
no, nothing like that. Just maybe poorly done, or like they blowing out. They're all, you can't even read. Like my first tattoo is the Meat is Murder Gorilla Biscuits, and you can't even read Meat is Murder. I got that 1988.
Yeah.
Just silly stuff like that. And I don't know. I love covering them up now. Like if I have like a lighter one, but I am getting lasered so I can make more room. And
yeah. My partner's having all her tattoos removed.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so
laser
painful.
hurts. Yeah.
It's pretty quick, but it hurts.
Yeah. Like, but you're going to just keep doing it. And then
I just can't stop. This like, I don't do anything else. This is my main thing. My whole life is just getting tattooed. I don't do anything. This is the only form of.
Would you ever get any on your face?
No.
Yeah.
I love my wife too much, and
she'd be sad.
She'd divorce me.
Yeah.
Some people are good with it. It's not really my thing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've done crazy. My whole head is tattooed, my neck, all that. But like, some people look really cool with face tats, and some people I'm just like, I don't know. I'm cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Would you ever tattoo your face?
No. No. It's bad enough that I have this piercing. Like I had my lip pierced like in high school. I got it.
And it's just still a scar
when I was 16.
There?
Well, yeah, because I wore it till 2015, and then I did this woman briefly who was rude about. She was like, "Take that out. You're not a fucking teenager anymore." Basically.
Wow.
And I did, but it's so much scar tissue. It's like I actually have to get the scar tissue removed and then one stitch, and I'll no longer have a hole in my face.
Yeah.
And people are always like, "Who cares? Leave it." But like, it's a pretty big hole. Like we Photoshop it out of our press shots because it's like it's very visible. When you're around me, you don't notice it.
Yeah, I don't know.
And what's really odd is Sarah has a mole in the exact same spot. So we actually both look like we just have a mole, but like mine is a hole. Like if I take a sip of water and laugh, like water comes out. It's like
no way.
Yeah, it's okay. I mean, I had the piercing for 20 years.
Wow.
And I played with it constantly. I guess 20 years. I'm bad at math because I'm a musician.
Did you put it back in when you and your lady broke up?
No, because she was right. Because you know what? I had to go to a way smaller ball, like on the end.
Oh, yeah.
And it used to slip through the hole all the time because like I really had stretched it out. And
yeah.
it fucked up my teeth. I'm going to have to get gum grafts.
What? Because of a piercing?
Yeah, because it wears down your gums.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, you don't want that as you get older. And like apparently that, you think fucking removing your tattoos is hard.
Do you hear the sacrifices that we all go through to make ourselves try to look different? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you one more thing. I was going to ask you over here. It's in my notes right here. Hang out.
I think it's fun.
I did rituals. Oh, your last real job. What was your last real job?
My last job with like a proper paycheck was working at a coffee shop called Grabba Jabba.
Grabba Jabba?
Yeah, I got the job after I graduated high school. My mom told us we could have the summer off. I had worked all through 12th grade. I'd worked at a place called Robin's Donuts, and it was inside of a Canadian Tire, which is kind of like a REI.
Okay.
And it was horrible. I worked 3 afternoons a week and Saturday morning a 6-hour shift and then Sunday the afternoon shift. Like I worked a lot my senior at high school, which was, by the way, is a mistake. If my mom's listening, like you wonder why I barely got out of high school. It's like, why was I working so much?
You're exhausted.
What did I need that money for? You know?
Yeah.
You know, by then I didn't do drugs anymore. So like, I don't know what I was doing. I don't know what I was doing. Anyway, but yeah, I graduated. I quit the job. Basically, we won this contest, this Garage Wars contest in our senior of high school in the spring. And then all of a sudden, the entire Canadian industry knew who we were, and we were being like offered demo deals, and major labels were coming to see us, and all these things happened. And so anyway, I quit my job at Robin's Donuts. And my mom said, you have the summer off, and when you turn 18, you need a job, because if you're not going to college, then you need to work if you're going to live in my house. And my mom and my stepdad split up, and my mom was like, you need to go to driver's ed. I'm tired of fucking driving you to your gigs. And so basically after we turned 18, you know, I spent 5 days a week working at this place, Grabba Jabba, serving coffee. And then when I worked mornings, and when I would come home in the afternoon, I would cold call coffee shops and see if they had open mics that Sarah and I could play. You know, we'd get $100 and could sell tapes or whatever, and I would try to book us 1 or 2 gigs a week.
Wow.
And like that was sort of my day job. And then when I started to make enough money doing coffee shop gigs and getting random opening gigs and stuff like that, I quit Grabba Jabba. And the owner's name was Zool, and they never bothered to learn my name or get me a shirt or a name, like a shirt that was my size. I was wearing like an extra large, and they never got me a name tag. And my friend Melissa had been the one that got me the job, and she was basically like running this restaurant, even though she was 18. And I talked her into it. I was like, I don't know why I needed to get her to quit the same time as me, because I couldn't do it alone. So I talked her. I was like, they're taking advantage of you, Melissa. I worked on it. You need to quit with me. And so we went to their other location, and I don't remember what Zool's wife was, or what her name was, but we went in, and they were like so fancy in my memory. I don't know if they really were, but they were sitting in their other restaurant, which was this coffee shop in the Stock Exchange building, downtown Calgary. And we walked in, and they're like, hi, Melissa. And then just looked at me like, what garbage person like are you that works at our other thing or whatever, my giant shirt. And Melissa's like, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. And I asked for, a raise. I think they were paying her like $6 an hour and they were paying me $4.50 or something like that. And she was like, and I'm done with it. And they were like, no, Melissa, like in my head, it's like very dramatic, but like I verified with Melissa, this is pretty much what happened. And she's not hyperbolic in any way. So this is like, I do believe sort of what happened.
Legit, yeah.
But she was basically like, no, you're taking advantage of me and this job sucks. And I could go work at Co-op, which was like a grocery store in Calgary, and make $9 an hour. And they're like, we'll pay you whatever you want. And I could see Melissa was on the edge and I went, no, she's done or whatever. And then I took off my Grabba Jabba shirt. I had an undershirt on and threw it down on the table. And Melissa did the same thing.
Oh, wow.
And then we walked out of there.
That's
and
amazing.
It was Christmas Eve, 1998.
And what is your friend doing now? Do you know?
Yeah, Melissa lives in Chico, California. She's a teacher.
Nice.
She's got a great partner and they have 2 kids and they're just amazing people. We're friends with all our friends from high school. They're all amazing people. They all are so cool and do such interesting things. And
it's amazing. And you never get your license?
No. And I can drive. Like if there's an emergency right now and you're like, my keys, they're over there. Tegan, quick, get me to the hospital. I'm like,
but why didn't you do it? You just didn't.
It's like a whole other hour, Toby. I don't know what to say.
Okay.
There's some
I'm
sort
a terrible
of
driver. I didn't get my driver's license until I was 33 when I moved to LA because I grew up in New York and didn't have to drive. I barely drive. I don't drive on highways still to this day.
That's funny.
I don't own a car. I sold my car a year ago.
Amazing.
I walk. I bird. My son has a car. I use bicycles and skateboards.
Yeah.
Same. It gives me anxiety. I can't explain it.
I can't either. And like, I wondered sometimes if it was linked to like, well, first of all, when I was in high school, I was just like intoxicated all the time. So I knew better than to even bother getting my driver's license because
it was smart.
Because if I got my driver's license, I wouldn't have driven intoxicated. I just wouldn't have been able to do drugs or drink anymore. And that was like definitely not an option. And then we grew up in Calgary. It's all highways. It's really far. It's like cold as fuck, like 8 months of the year, icy, brutal. Whatever. And I just think I was probably scared.
Yeah.
And then I moved to Vancouver when I was 19 and nobody I knew had a car. Still to this day, barely anyone. Like it's so expensive and it's like a San Francisco. Like you don't really need a car.
Yeah.
And, people just were constantly like, you need to get your license. You need to get your license. And so probably I
it's
also built an aversion.
Yeah.
Calloused a bit inside of me is like, I don't need it. I don't need it. I love the like athletic part of it, like the health part of it. I love that my footprint's small because my footprint isn't small. I fly and drive around in a gas guzzling tour bus. So I think then it became a kind of like a climate activist action, which is probably just an excuse. Then recently I went through a whole other phase where I was thinking about it a lot and was like, when I was doing driver's ed, when I was 18, I came home from work one day and was waiting for the person to pick me up to go do the driver's ed. And when I got to the house, our front door was open. And, Sarah and I worked different jobs. And so I walked into the house and was like, Sarah, like, 'cause the door was wide open and there was a burglar in our house and him and I were face to face.
Wow.
It took me a minute to figure out what was happening. He was like completely shocked. He clearly had cased our house and knew that we weren't going to be there. So he looked completely shocked.
Holy shit.
All the doors and windows were open, like clearly like had created like an escape, route for himself or whatever.
Yeah.
And we just like were looking at each other, like you and me are looking at each other right now.
Wow.
And I was like, Sarah? Like thinking like, is this a friend of hers? And then it occurred to me what was going on. And he dropped the bag. He was a young guy and dropped the bag that he was holding and ran. And it's like weird. Like I suppose some part of me, like there's probably trauma around
for sure
that like time in my life because I just graduated high school. My parents were splitting up. My secret girlfriend had moved to another country. I decided not to go to college. All my friends went away for school. I was working at a shitty fucking Grabba Jabba. My mom wanted me to drive. I didn't have any money. It was going to be a band. Sarah and I hated each other. I just think it's probably I'm locked up somewhere there.
Totally.
But then I moved to LA and everyone was like, well, now you're going to really have to drive. And then I lived here for 12 years and I didn't drive. And only like a few of those years, like only 5 of them, there was like Uber and Lyft because like I moved here, it was like 2008.
Yeah, so how are you getting around? Just random
friends,
rides?
The bus. Because I lived in Echo Park in downtown for 10 of the years. And so like, I don't know, I just like walk, friends.
So you never owned a car?
Well, that's funny. Sarah and I bought this station wagon when we were taking driver's ed because my mom was like, you're getting a fucking car. I'm not driving.
Station wagon.
Yeah, we named him Woody. He had blue velvet interior, wood paneling, and he was parked in my mom's, backyard, like on the parking pad for about a year. And the day we bought it off my uncle was the only time we ever sat in the driver's seat.
Wow.
And we just like, we're so fucking stubborn and we just didn't get our license. Sarah still doesn't have it.
And
her partner's making her do it because they have a kid now.
Yeah.
And Stacey was like, this is ridiculous. The day that's like the night Stacey went into labor, Sarah had to call my mom to pick them up, take them to the hospital.
Whoa.
And she was like, okay, you know what? I'm pathetic. And that happened to me because my partner got really sick in LA once and we had to go to the emergency and we had to take a fucking Uber.
Oh shit.
And I was like, you know what? This is pathetic that I cannot take care of my partner. I feel really bad about this.
Yeah.
But that was like 5 years ago, and look at me, still a dipshit that doesn't drive.
My wife did the same thing. I did in my license. She said, when our son is born, if you don't have a license, you are not going to be there when the baby is born. So I went and got my license. Like I busted my ass. I failed the test 3 times. And obviously she's joking, but it really put a fire in me. And then I drove under the speed limit. I drove so scared. I was so scared driving her to the hospital when my son was born. But now I still barely drive though. You know, it's like,
yeah. I think like more and more, I think less about it. But I don't know. I think it's a skill I want. A part of it is I'm frustrated because it takes a really long time. It takes like almost 2 years to get your license in Vancouver.
Really?
Yeah, because you have to hold a learner's permit for a full year.
Wow.
And then you get what they call a new license. So you have to drive in the car with somebody like who is like over a certain age that holds a license. You cannot have 1 drop of alcohol. It does not matter what age you are. Not even 1 drop. Like there's a lot of rules and stuff like that, which I think is amazing, but it's incredibly inconvenient because I just like, can I just have my license? I can drive.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous. That's not how it works. No.
And last thing, do you like hip hop at all? Any hip hop?
I do like hip hop.
Do you have any favorite hip hop groups? I know it's super random.
It is kind of super random. I mean, there's this hip hop artist from Vancouver, Kimortal, who I love.
I love hearing about new rappers. Yeah.
Yeah, Kimortal's amazing. I love them.
Any American hip hop stuff?
I mean,
hi, Mama.
Hi, Moon. I mean, when we were in high school, I was like obsessed with A Tribe Called Quest.
Woo, that's incredible.
Yeah. Hello.
And then what is like an artist that people would kind of trip out that you like that would be surprised that you listen to?
Well, people always act so strange when I say like Imagine Dragons, which I don't know why because they're amazing.
Yeah.
But
and Coldplay, obviously, yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Tribe Called Quest thing is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
It makes me happy.
Well, we grew up in like very, very diverse neighborhood, and a lot of the kids we grew up listen to hip hop and rap. And my partner almost exclusively listens to hip hop and rap.
Oh wow!
Which is strange and odd because like when she was a kid, she learned English listening to Hanson, which I think is hilarious, and Eminem.
Wow,
that's how she learned English. And then when she was in college, she was obsessed with Friends, which is how she became better. Like now, she speaks better English than I do, but. So yeah, but I admit I don't listen to a lot of hip hop and rap, but I do. Yeah, probably the most recent would just be Kimortal, and I think that they're really awesome. There's probably others, but my brain freezes when asked to pick favorites of things.
It's crazy. Eminem turned 50 yesterday.
That's wild.
That's crazy. And it's the first Tegan and Sara song. Really, Tegan didn't go to school today.
Yep.
I missed you. Wow, that was so cute. That was one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah, proper earworm.
That's the first official lyric song, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think both of us admit that we think there was one that we were kind of fussing with before that, but we can't remember anything about it. And I think, yeah, but Sarah wrote, Tegan didn't go to school today. I was staying home sick, and she borrowed a pair of my purple etnies.
Yes.
And I was like, you can borrow them, but do not lose them.
It's so cute.
Yeah.
And also your piano lessons, too, like where...
I feel like
we
were good.
You didn't want to learn.
We took classical, but you know what though? Like the depiction on the show is not it all. We took classical piano. We took Royal Conservatory classical.
So you're really good
training.
Piano.
We were good, but Sarah's starting this whole thing. Like she's in interviews telling people we weren't good. But what it was, we didn't like it. We didn't apply ourselves in any way. We did the absolute minimum. Yeah,
that was cute. Like if I could play this song, first you have to learn this song, but then. Yeah. Then I hear you play the Smashing Pumpkins song.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and I think like that sums up sort of like a thing that happened around that time, which was we'd been in lessons in musical theory and conservatory classes and stuff. And when we started writing songs, we were like, we don't want to have to do piano anymore. And my mom was like, you either need to be in guitar lessons or piano lessons. And we stayed in piano lessons because we didn't want to ruin the guitar. Because I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do. We went to one lesson and some guy's like, and then you do this shape. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I got all the shapes. I'm good. And I know about as much about the guitar as I knew then now. Like we were in rehearsals all this week, and our musical director's like, it's a D, like add the 7, and I was like, lady, I don't know what the fuck you're saying. Can you come show me?
So you can't read music?
No. And Heather, God bless her, she's so patient with me. I've been playing music for 25 years, and I'm like, what key is the song? And jokes, I have no idea what that means.
Wow.
Wouldn't mean anything to me.
You never tried to learn anything?
It's like my driver's license. They live in the same category in my brain. I somehow managed to have a career, make 10 albums, have lots of success, don't have a clue what's going on.
Well, since this podcast comes out 3 days after Crybaby is now out everywhere. So this
this
will come out 3 days after.
Okay, great. I hope everyone go listen to Cry Baby.
It's out now. There's this Smoking Weed Alone has already been out.
Yep.
Now the whole record's out.
Yep.
Oh, also, I Can't Grow Up. Also, there's another song you guys have dropped as well. I'm so happy you came here. I could talk to you for hours. I know you have to fly tonight.
I know.
You're flying to New York tonight.
I'm scared to ask what time is it. Is that if I already missed my
It's 8:20. You're good.
Oh, no. Time for me to go.
And you fly to New York?
Yeah, I'm going to New York. We're
more press?
We're doing press. We're doing an in-store at Rough Trade. We're playing Fallon.
Rough Trade in-store? Wow, that's old school.
I know. Oh, we love stuff like that. We live for it. That's like will be my happiest day.
It's like a throwback in real life. That's incredible.
I know. I love that stuff. Yeah, we're going there. We're doing that. We're doing Fallon, and then we start the tour in Philly.
Just swing by. You doing Fallon? That's awesome.
Yeah.
So Fallon be out. When's that?
I think we tape it on the 27th. I think.
Okay, so this will be already out. Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then I saw you be playing in LA. I'm gonna come out to that show. That's
like
pretty soon. The tour kicks off October 26th.
I know, mid-November. Yeah, I'm excited, and I really do think we'll tour again next year, and I mean, we'll see. But
this is incredible to have you here and like catch up with you. That's why I love this pod and just
love your positive attitude, Toby. It's so nice to be back here. It's so lovely to talk to you. So glad your family's doing well. It's been fun watching Max grow up over Instagram, and you're killing it.
Thank you. This has been awesome, and you have a good. You can talk, and I love that. I love that you just killed it. We covered everything. All my notes, everything.
We always joke, Sarah and I were like, if we could have somehow made a living talking, we would have definitely gone into that field first. You do
have a podcast, though, right?
We don't have a podcast, but we do Substack, and it's called I Think We're Alone Now, and we tape the audio for it all, and we do all the soundscape, sound design. So it's sort of our baby step into it. We will eventually do a podcast.
I think you should do.
I have a lot of ideas.
I think you kill it with a podcast.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun. I just we need to be home. I want to do something really different and cool. But I love conversation. I love talking to people.
I know. It's the
best part of our job.
This is amazing.
Thanks.
It doesn't even feel like it's been 2.5 hours.
I know, it really flew by.
Thank you so much, and thanks for listening, everybody. You can find Tegan and Sara on the gram. Do you guys have a website too? Probably Tegan and Sara website, whatever.
Yeah, Tegan
merchandise, tour dates.
Yeah. Everything's there.
Okay, everything's awesome.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Everything is awesome.
So we just decided we'd come back on the pod because I love talking to Tegan, and I just told her I'm going to therapy, and I don't go into airplane bathrooms. I don't lock the doors. I sit in the back seat of the airplane. I'm trying to figure out my problems, and she's about to break down some reality about flying for me. Thank you.
Well, so here's the thing. My partner, since we met, we've been together 7 years, very afraid of flying, and she used to have to take Klonopin, basically a tranquilizer to even get on the plane, which as soon as we started dating, I was like, I don't think this is the right thing for you to take to fly because it really messes you up and it makes you feel out of control. And as a person who has a lot of control issues and doesn't do drugs, I don't think she doesn't either. So I was like, she barely even drinks. I was like, I don't think that you should be getting yourself messed up to be on a plane. So she started investigating different routes to make herself feel better because it was awful. It was very, very scary to fly with her. She walks off planes. She
walks off planes before they take off.
Mm-hmm. She didn't go to her best friend's birthday a year ago because the morning she got up she just had such crazy anxiety she couldn't do it. And so she did this program, which I'm going to send to you because I think you might like it, and I'm apologize because I don't know the name of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure if you Google Captain Tom Fear of Flying, it'll come up.
Okay.
But she did this program and it was really amazing, and the first time that she flew after she did the program, she was feeling anxious, and he tells you, call me. And we were like, oh, it's probably some hotline or whatever, but it's nope, Captain Tom answered the phone.
Wow.
And talked her through the situation, and she got on the plane. She did this whole thing. You get a tour of the airport, you get to meet a pilot, this whole thing.
That's incredible.
And it really helped. It took her anxiety from a 10 to a 2, but it still existed for her. And so she recently actually started seeing a therapist. It's been 6 months. It's been absolutely revolutionary. It's changed her life. But he specializes in phobias. Debilitating phobias.
Okay.
And as soon as he started seeing her, he was like, this isn't about flying. And I won't get into what her personal stuff is.
Totally.
But he was like, this isn't about flying. And, of course it's not for most people, right? It's about dysregulation and how to learn how to regulate yourself. And clearly a lot of us, depending on how we were raised and how our upbringings, we didn't necessarily learn how to regulate ourselves.
Yeah. I'm so curious to see what mine stems from. I cannot wait to deep dive into my mind.
But it's been incredible. She's been seeing him for a couple of months, and, she had to fly for work a couple times in the recent months, and she was like, I'm a zero. I wasn't afraid.
Wow.
But there was really interesting, I don't even know what the word is, strategy that they use, but it's called, again, I'm going to stumble through this, but it's Velcroing. So they basically, use this model where like they Velcro things that release dopamine or
Gotcha,
serotonin. You know, so a lot of women, for example, like who've had children might imagine like breastfeeding or their child, and that like releases that feeling. They Velcro it to like every stage of like heading to the airport, getting into the airport, checking into your flight.
That's what gives me the most stress, like leaving and going through the process.
Yeah, and so they Velcro these things that bring you that serotonin or dopamine or whatever.
Wow.
And so, but she struggled the first time she went through the program with Captain Tom because she didn't have something like that. So like, you know, she's like, I don't have children. I didn't breastfeed. Like with a lot of men, sometimes they use sex. Like she was like, you know, so she'd gone through this whole thing. And then she went back to see him after we got a dog. And she said, have you ever tried it with pets? Have you ever tried Velcroing like this whole thing with pets? And he said, no, let's try. And so she has this folder on the plane. And you literally, quite literally, like put the images next to each other of like all the different stages of flying. But then with these images she uses of this dog, and she goes through all this therapy, and then she does her first flight, and she gets on the flight, puts on her, you know, headphones, and like looks through these images. And like, again, I was saying this in the kitchen. This is when you got excited, but I was saying that he was the one that was like, don't focus on what if, focus on what is. And like anxiety and fear is based on what if, and you have to live in the what is.
Totally.
What is. And it's been revolutionary for her. It's changed her life, you know, and it's not like overnight she was like a different person, but she's, like I said, going through this other, you know, therapy that's been like super, super monumental, because she's so stoic and strong and A-type and amazing and a boss. And like, she's like in charge of everything. And like getting on an airplane is about letting go. And that's about like losing control.
100%.
And it's not easy.
No. You have no problem flying?
Well, flying with her was hard for me because it's contagious when someone's afraid and tense.
Okay.
Because you're really, really hyper-focused on like what they're feeling. And so then you're hyper-focused on what's happening on the plane. And that was partly how I motivated her, because we had one flight in particular where I was like, you have to deal with this. It is so unpleasant to be on a plane with you.
Yeah.
And it's like creating fear in me. And but otherwise, no, I love flying. Flying. I can't wait to get on the flight.
I want to thank my band because they all sit in the back rows with me, because that's the only way I fly for the whole time I've been in this band. We all sit by the bathrooms. And
is your biggest fear crashing, or is it a nebulous anxiety just about being on the plane?
I don't even think about it. The process of leaving my house, going through security, getting in my seat, putting the seatbelt on, and then that weird time frame where it's like, okay, you have to stay in your seats until the takeoff, and then sometimes if the flight's just waiting, and then it's just on the runway, I start freaking. I don't know why. Then once it goes up in the air, I'm totally cool. My stomach goes away, like any kind of. It's strange, but then the whole bathroom thing, being afraid to get locked in there and being way by the back. I sit by the bathrooms all the time, and I barely use the bathrooms, but I feel like the back of the plane is a safe place for me. There's nobody behind me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's interesting. I mean, I totally get it. Yeah. I mean, it's a wild thing. We're flying through the air in this tube.
This
it's
heavy
like,
piece of metal.
Yeah, it's really wild. It's magical. It's absolutely miraculous.
And we have to do it, especially for what we do.
Yep.
It's like part of our everyday. So it's like.
It's wild.
Well, thank you for coming back on and saying that too.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of you. I'm glad you're going to therapy. It's so fun. I love therapy.
I know. I have so many issues with like my dad passing at 3 years old. I talked about on this podcast 100 times. Then I had this girl in here named Jessica Alexander. Shout out to her. She's a Nike SB strength and conditioning coach, and she told me about her life, which is a really heavy podcast. It's not out yet. And I connected with her, and she told me about therapy and what it did for her. And I went to see her therapist, who is incredible. And I've never nobody in my family has ever gotten therapy. And if they're listening, I love you guys. And they all reached out to me and told me that I might have inspired them to go as well.
That's so great.
Because we had no closure after my dad died.
Yeah.
And I've been an emotional wreck since that. And I feel like once I became a dad, not having a dad, that triggered something.
Yeah.
And so I just want to talk about it. I want to get deep into my mind and see where all this is coming from.
It's awesome.
And I'm 52, and it's a big deal for me. And I didn't tell my wife or my son until after I had the consultation. I said, I'm doing this. They were totally shocked. And like, it's a big deal because it's been talked about throughout my marriage for 26 years with my wife and even with my family. So yeah, I think it's really important.
That's awesome. And I think it's so great that you're talking about it publicly. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's like, I totally understand. Even my partner, like, she just grew up in a household where nobody did therapy, and she thought it was so, like, I was always like, therapy. It's so cool. It's so cool. And now, like, couples therapist, she has her therapist. She's just like, this is so awesome.
You started young?
Yeah, well, my mom's a therapist.
Oh, that's right. I should know that from the show.
Yeah.
Therapist, psychologist. That's right. That's
so we
right.
went after my parents got divorced, and then we went No, you didn't fuck up. It's fine.
What's in my notes? Okay, go ahead.
You did great. You know more about me than most people now. So
you started young.
But
okay,
I'm a big fan of it. I'm a big
Yeah.
fan of it. It's really helpful, and it's good to go when you're not in crisis. That's one thing I talk about with people all the time. Like, I often only want to go when I'm in crisis, and it's like, no, go now. Build the skills now, so when you are in crisis, you have skills.
I'm not in crisis either. I'm just doing it to do it because, like I said, she inspired me. Now I'm in a great place in my life, but I just want to go.
It's perfect.
And my only fear is like, what if they dig something up that my mind blocked out that I didn't want to see? And
Don't
now
worry
I see
about
it. I'm
it.
like, oh my God.
No.
Okay. So yeah, that's what these guys are worried about. But I know I'm perfect. But I'm just kidding.
No, look, it's good. And if you uncover something like that, you'll release it into the world, and it'll be great. It's better to come out then anyway.
It's going to make me hopefully a better human by knowing any kind of things I have. I don't know.
I think it can be, with the right person, it can be really amazing. It can be really amazing. I went when my partner and I started seeing a therapist. I went because we were having I had so much anxiety about our dog. It sounds like such a silly reason, but within 5 minutes, it wasn't about the dog. Our therapist was just like, yeah. You invited a third into your relationship.
True.
You now your relationship isn't about the two of you anymore. Now you're having to renegotiate all of the terms, and we just started diving into this whole thing, just the way that he helped us to reframe. I have an intense family and a job and an identical twin sister and all these things. And it's it doesn't matter how much therapy you do. You can always find new things, and you can always, I don't know. It's really cool. We leave and we're like, God, that was great. And also they're on your side.
I know.
And that's cool.
They don't know nothing about me until I tell them everything.
It's amazing.
And it's it's like talking to a wall and just get everything out.
Yeah. Love it.
Well, I want you to come back. I want you to come back for a part 2 someday because
can't wait.
I love talking to you. I could talk to you for hours. We have to get to the airport. My friend Chappelle and I are going to take you.
I know. My jaw's tired.
But anytime you're in LA, I'd love to have you. This is great.
I appreciate
this is
that
so
very
great
much.
reconnecting with you.
Yeah. Thank you for welcoming me to your home and onto your podcast. Appreciate it very much.
Okay. We're not coming back on, everybody. Goodbye.
Okay. Bye.
Yo, people always ask me what kind of frames I'm rocking. I've been rocking Caddis for a couple years. They make amazing progressive readers, which I wear. Also, they make sunglass readers, anti-glare, anti-smudge coating, anti-scratch, and anti-aging. That's why I look mad young when I wear them. I'm just kidding. But they make amazing frames. Caddis, so stoked to have you guys part of the podcast. You can go to caddislife.com/Toby10 and get $10 off your first purchase. Stoked. Thank you, Caddis. Welcome to the fam. Yo, Liquid Death. Thank you so much for hydrating all my guests, taking care of me and my family and my friends. Love your water, love your brand, love what you stand for, love what you give back to the community. If you want to learn more about Liquid Death and how it started, listen to episode 115 with the co-founder, owner, and creator of Liquid Death, Mike Cesario. Just a punk rock skateboarding kid from Delaware with a dream. It's an incredible story, incredible journey. They have now blessed me with my own code. So if you go liquiddeath.com/Toby, you get free shipping on any items you order from liquiddeath.com. Thank you so much, Liquid Death. Death to plastic, murder your thirst. Stay hydrated. You know H2O saves lives.